I've got it going.
Beautiful. Welcome, everyone. Tom Matson here with my co-host Frank Bria and Anita Narayan for your master class today. Whether you're joining us live on this wet Friday as we record this or on a webinar rebroadcast, we're so excited to talk to you about how to use your next book to build a seven-figure business, even if you can't market your way out of a wet paper bag, our favorite instrument. My name is Tom Matson. I am fortunate to be joined today by Frank Bria and Anita Narayan. And as we get started, I want you to think about something. And this is a quote from Katie Sharfin. One of the saddest things in the world is a broke philanthropist. If you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to have impact, if you want to improve the lives of people, which is what most people that want to write a book do, why is it that so few authors make money? Well, the reality is because their strategy sucks. They think that the book is the key. And one of the things we're going to prove to you today is that the book is not the key. There are many other elements, but the book is simply a tool to the key. And we'll talk about that. See, the challenge is it's getting harder and harder every single year to sell books. There are so many books out there that the categories are literally saturated with a surplus of books on every topic. In preparing for today's masterclass, I learned that the latest data is that the average nonfiction book in the US sells, are you ready? 250 copies a year. Less than 2,000 copies over its lifetime. And if you're making a standard 5 to 10% royalty on that, if it's being published by someone else, you're not even paying for your coffee bill.
I bet there are some authors that are listening to this right now that would love to have sold 250 copies of their book.
Yeah, right. That's the average, which means half the people listening to this have sold less, right?
That's right. Exactly.
That's pretty sad. And here's what's even worse. That's actually not the worst part. The worst part is this. According to Kobo right now, only 60% of books purchased are ever opened. Now, how sad is that? If you think about it, how sad is that so few books actually even get opened, right? So there's two challenges, right? There's getting your book out there and then getting it read. And unfortunately, too many people think that the game is about that, getting them out there and getting them read. And what Frank and I have learned, and we partnered with Anita to present this information with you, is that it doesn't do you any good to have a book that's sitting around collecting dust on one of those shelves you see on the left. It doesn't do any good whatsoever. So for those of you that aren't familiar, who are we and what we're all about? Well, let me introduce Frank, and then Frank will introduce me, and then I'll introduce Anita. Frank is an entrepreneurial veteran with high-tech and financial service experience, has helped businesses grow on 5 continents. In addition to marketing and selling himself, he's worked with numerous firms to help them achieve their market penetration goals. He's written 4 books, and if you read some of the emails that invited you to come here, if you had a chance to look at the copy, you'll know that the most profitable books are the ones that have sold the least for Frank, and we'll talk more about that today. So Frank, super excited, glad you could join us.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And for those of you who don't know Tom, he is an entrepreneur who started dozens of businesses on his own. Has learned, like all of us, I think, who are sort of that serial entrepreneur type, learned from great mistakes and great successes. And he likes to say made and lost millions. That's what a lot of us say who are in this game, I guess. But in that specifically, it's because he knows what it takes to get a business up and running. He finds ways of getting you to your goal that you may not otherwise have found. One of the reasons why I like to work with Tom is because that's his creativity coming through, and has generated literally like over $100 million in sales in dozens of industries for him and his clients. So that's why Tom is the right guy to be talking about this topic.
And our mission is to empower entrepreneurs to embrace what we call the new norm in business, which is doing good and making money at the same time. doing good and making money at the same time. Remember, we talked about the broke philanthropist. That's one of the saddest things in the world. Well, someone who loves to do good and makes money at the same time is our co-host today, Anita Narayan, a heart-centered entrepreneur, a humanitarian whose mission is to make inspiration the norm. 25 years of experience, fascinating background, including professional football, as they call it over on the other side of the pond, and wrote a book, a best-selling book called Breaking Free, in which she shares how she found the joy and inspiration after a major personal tragedy. Very excited to have Anita on board. She really focuses on helping people rediscover joy, purpose, and creating inspirational legacies without self-sabotage. Anita is here live, but we asked Anita to record a brief intro for those of you that have not met her, since this is the first time she's on one of our masterclasses as a co-host. And here's a little bit from Anita herself.
Hi folks, Anita Narayan here. I'm on a mission to make inspiration the norm through strategic philanthropy, which is all about doing good and making money at the same time. And so I'm really looking forward to not just helping you bring your message to the table in the form of a book, but through the book to really create a seamless, structured process that allows your audience to easily access your knowledge and wisdom to bring about the results in their lives they so richly deserve, as well as for you to have a richly rewarding experience, and at the same time to make an impact in the world that leaves the world in a much more highly evolved state.
Thank you, Anita. And Anita, live from Basingstoke, you want to say hi?
Hi. That was me. I haven't moved since yesterday, as you can tell from the picture.
Yeah, there you go. And Anita will be managing the chat, helping us out in the background and contributing as we cover the content today. I'm so glad you could join us. Speaking of content, here's the plan. Over the next 3 hours, in the first hour, we're going to talk about writing your book in 30 days or less. My second book was done exactly using this formula and approach, and you will love it. And if you use it, you will never write your book any other way but this way going forward. We're going to cover the entire system, everything that's involved in getting it done. And it's all about not just 30 days, but an hour a day. An hour a day to have an amazing book when you're done. Next, in the second hour, we're going to cover something we call the Strategic Philanthropy Book Launch, which is all about creating a tribe of raving fans. It does you no good, as you heard from the stats earlier, to have books that no one opens. It does you no good. We all know that, right? You want raving fans, and this approach where you do good and make money at the same time is the key to getting that accomplished. And then now you've got a book, you've got a tribe of raving fans. What's next, Jerry? I was going to say, Frank, we got to show you the money. And that's the third hour, right? It's all about monetizing your tribe, turning your tribe into cash. You cannot have global impact and global legacy without cash flow. You just can't do it. I mean, there are a few people that can pull it off, but most of us are not Mahatma Gandhi. We don't have that ability to make global impact on a shoestring budget. We need to have revenue in today's world. And we're going to talk in the third hour about how you create a high-ticket, high-margin program based on your book. And in fact, the book's goal becomes setting up your program. Every hour, we're going to cover the content for half an hour. Then we'll open up for questions and answers for up to 15 minutes. And then we're going to invite you to join us, for those that want help getting this done, on a very special offer. It's actually the global launch of this offer. This is the first time we've shared it with people. Those of you that are here live are going to get a chance to see this for the very first time. If you're watching the webinar rebroadcast, you're going to be one of the first few people in the world to see this. We're super excited to do that. For those that stick around until the end of the 3 hours, we have a special gift, and that will be the entire set of keynote slides from today's presentation sent to you in PDF form, so you have all the links and all the notes and all the elements, so that you can just focus as you're going through now on mastering the material and building some questions that we can talk about at the end of each hour. So that's the plan for the 3 hours. Depending on Frank and I and how much we talk, there will be a short break at the end of each hour, or not. We might just go straight into it. So fend for yourself in the background. Remember, we are recording this. We will be sharing the recording with you, of course, afterwards, providing the technology holds, and it always Pretty much always does with Zoom, which is great. First hour, let's get right into it. How to write your book in 30 days or less. The first key, if you're going to create a 7-figure business based on your book, is your book. And in fact, when we were putting this together, we realized this is actually the biggest stumbling block that most people have, is to actually get their book completed. The biggest strategy mistake we're going to talk about later is that they're not setting their book up for financial success. But the biggest stumbling block is getting their book done. I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to that say they've got a book. Oh yeah, they've got a book. They've got several books planned. And where are they? They're all up in their head. So the key is to get it out of your head and get it down and get it out in the marketplace. And there are 4 steps, just 4 steps to create an amazing book in 30 days using just 1 hour a day of your time. I know that's a bold claim, but we're going to take you through that in the next 15 minutes. Then we're going to open up for questions if you have on any part of this, because this works. And it's a simple approach. The first thing is you create a high-level blueprint of your wisdom. Think of this as a super outline of your process or method. And if you're not sure of your method, you're going to use something called the Merlin method, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But so let's assume first you do know your method, you do know your process. You're going to blueprint it. We use mind mapping software. You can use good old-fashioned paper and pen if you want, and write it down. You can use sticky notes. It doesn't really matter what technology you use. The key is to create an outline first of all of the parts of your method or your process. We're focusing today's entire masterclass on nonfiction books that are business-based or have some sort of outcome or impact. So for those of you that happen to be in the fiction world or in other areas, some of this will apply and some of this won't apply. But for those of you that have a book that relates to providing an outcome or an impact for your reader, this will be exactly the steps you want to do. So the first thing you want to do is outline it. Every single step. First I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. Some of you that are super organized already have it done into a process or a system. We recommend 5 parts of this, and we're going to talk about that more in a moment, ultimately. But in the first stage, you're just capturing everything that happens to get an amazing outcome.
Hey, Tom, do you mind if I share with you the process I use?
Yeah.
So I'm not a mind map guy. Like, I like actually looking at other people's mind maps, but I find that particular tool, I can't think in that way because I'm a lot more scatterbrained. But for those of you who like this sort of paper and pencil kind of approach, which I really like, that tactical piece to get started, I take seriously like a pack of Post-it notes, right? I just take a pack of Post-it notes and I just, with my pen, I go through and I just jot every blasted thing down that comes into my head that might have anything potentially possibly to do with the book. And those little things, I literally just put them off onto a side. I pull off the sticky note, put it off to the side, don't even think about it, and just keep brainstorming. Then when I'm done with that process, I will then visually take those Post-it notes and organize them on a flat table or a wall or something.
Frank, that's the next step. Don't jump ahead.
Oh, sorry. But before I get to a 5-step process, though, that's just to like get my thoughts coalesced around what that works. But it is that's how I first started to figure out exactly what big chunky things I might even be wanting to talk about before I even understand how it's all going to fit together.
Yeah, and in fact, the book that I learned this method with, we actually used 3x5 cards. When you said that, I realized we actually used index cards, the old-fashioned index cards, so that we could lay them out visually on a table and then organize them around, which of course is the next step. Once you've done that, what you need to do is organize them into a methodology. People are paying you to make it easier to understand. They're not paying you for your wisdom or for your humor, unless you're writing a humor book. For the most part, especially for business books, they're paying you to make it easier, to make it simpler, to make it faster, to make it cheaper. Some sort of benefit is implied when they offer to buy your book. And the more clear you can make that, the more value you bring to the table. Right? So it's really important. And our best practices right now, and I don't think this is going to change for quite some time, is 5 parts. 5 parts. And usually when I say that, there's someone out there that says, but I've got 17 steps to my method. Well, that may be, but maybe step 4 has to be do these 12 things, because they're not paying you to make it complicated. They're paying you to make it easy to follow. Easy to follow. And in reality, there may be 17 steps. Like there may be. Your methodology may be that you got to do these 17, and if you cut any of them out, you're not going to get a consistent, predictable result, which is awesome. You've learned it, you've got the experience, but you want to group them. You want to group them. I know, Frank, you do this all the time in working with the high-ticket, high-program clients. Any other tips you have for organizing it?
So a couple of things. First of all, what you're saying about, taking that complexity and making it simple is the key, right? It's your job as the expert to create order from chaos. I mean, anybody who is trying to figure out whatever it is that you're teaching can go on to Google and come up with 300,000 articles, right, on this topic. But that's not the point. The point is that you're organizing it and creating a usable roadmap, if you will, to do it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that I want anyone who is going to write a book to understand that a nonfiction book that is building your business needs to be leading your reader to a tangible outcome. So when I talk to authors and I say, what are you trying to do with your book? Whenever they start the sentence with, I want them to learn ... I immediately stop them. That is not good enough as an outcome. Just having your reader learn something is not good enough. Your reader has to take action on the stuff that you write in that book. Otherwise, you're going to be one of those books that only sells a couple hundred copies ever and never gets into a bookstore because it's kind of just cool to learn. Like, that's not good enough. If you really want to drive a seven-figure business with your book, you need to have a very clear outcome that your reader is going to execute on. I want my reader to do the following things at the end of this book or while they're reading this book. So be super, super clear about that in your head. Like, the perfect example of these things are those programming books that they sell to computer programmers. Literally, you read the book, and by the end of the book, you have built some software. Like, that is about as outcome-oriented as you get. So think about that kind of pattern and model for where your outcome is going to be.
Yeah, and on the marketing side, the Guerrilla Marketing Series with Jay Conrad Levinson, rest in peace, Jay, love you, man, is a great example of outcomes. Jay's books were all about getting leads. Sometimes you got into converting leads, but for the most part, it was all about getting leads. If you follow this method, you will get this type of lead flow, right? And so it was very, very measurable. And when we get to the question section in a few minutes, if you're not sure, this could probably be the most valuable questions you can ask us. Open, jot down, say, okay, well, my book's going to be about this. I don't think there's an outcome there. Right? Throw it up to us. Let's see. Maybe we can solve it. Maybe we can't. But I'll tell you this. If you want to have your book create a seven-figure revenue stream, you must solve this. You must solve this. So the first two steps, you're going to create a high-level blueprint, and then you're going to organize the blueprint into ideally 5 steps. Okay? Now, that's the high-level wireframe or blueprint of the process. Here's where you now create it, and the real key into making a book. By the way, this will probably take you a week of your month if you're working 1 hour a day. If you're just sitting down and tackling it straight away, you could easily pull this off in 1 day. Easily pull this off in 1 day. Oh, I forgot the Merlin method. I want to jump back on that. Let's say you're not clear. Let's say you're not clear on your process, right? I mean, you don't really know if there's a process for this. So here's what you do. The Merlin method, if you remember Merlin from, Anita, that's one of your countrymen. Wasn't Merlin one of your countrymen?
We'll take that. We'll have him.
Yeah, exactly. Merlin was this advisor to the court of England in legend and was so wise because Merlin was living his life backwards. So when the king asked for advice on a topic, Merlin simply had to remember what had happened and could give perfect advice to the king, right? It's like the Benjamin Button movie. It's the same idea. Merlin was living his life backwards. That's why Merlin was so wise. So how do you apply that? If you're not sure of your method, you start with the very end. Let's say baking a cake, all right? The very last step is you pull it out of the oven, I mean, you got arrested and a couple other things maybe, but for you cake aficionados, but functionally, you take the cake out of the oven. All right. What happens just before that? Just before that. You ask this question over and over again. What happens just before that? What happens just before that? Well, before you take it out of the oven, you are putting your toothpick inside to make sure it's done. Right? Right? For you bakers, that's the easiest way to test a cake. And what do you do before that? Well, you're putting it in the oven. And what do you do before that? Well, you're making sure your oven's turned on. And what temperature? 350 or whatever it is. And then before that, what do? You're mixing the dry and wet goods together. What do you do before that? You're mixing the wet. What do you do before that? You're putting in the ingredients for your wet. What ingredients? Boom, 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 boom. And you backward step every single part all the way through. And this is really good to do with friends who have no idea about your process, because they don't have to have any idea about the process. They simply have to ask you the question, what's next? Or what happens before that? What happens just before that? What happens just before that? It's actually better than forward shaping it. Extra for experts, for you systems people out there, forward shaping the process, you're going to skip things because you're so familiar with it. You're going to make assumptions. Like, of course you turn the oven on. How else are you going to put the cake in? Well, if you forget to turn the oven on at the right temperature, you're not going to have a cake. You're going to have pudding. And not even very tasty pudding, probably, right? So backward shape it. That's the Merlin method, is a great way to blueprint it. Now you've blueprinted it, you've organized it. Here's what you do next. This is where it gets to be really cool fun. You take the full blueprint and you prove your method. So for each of the 5 main areas, you want to break it down into teachable segments. Maybe it's 3 to 5 segments. Maybe it's 14 because you got this big, massive process. Doesn't matter. Here's where you break it down. And at each segment, you identify the teaching point, and then you identify whether you're going to prove it with a story, a demonstration, a metaphor, or a visual aid. Those are the top 4 ways to do this. You might have other ones, but right now I want you to think of stories, because we love stories. We connect with stories. Demonstrations, i.e. proof. Metaphors, which is, fancy storytelling, right? The Merlin method's a metaphor. And visual aids, a checklist, a chart, a graphic where it really proves the point. For any of you that were on the masterclass Frank and I did on how to create $1 million authority business, Frank had a very simple overlapping Venn diagram of 3 circles that he uses all the time. Those of you that are here in hour 3, you'll see it again because it's so powerful to demonstrate high-ticket, high-margin, scalable programs. It's just awesome. Because
that's not even my favorite one, Tom. I love that one.
It's not good. It's low tech, right? It's low tech. It's not fancy. But boy, oh boy, does it make the point.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally makes the point. So what you're doing here when you're outlining your book is what is the best story, demonstration, metaphor, or visual aid, and you're just putting a note down about it. Tell the story about McDonald's. Tell the story about blah, blah, blah. Tell the story about this. Demonstration, show this, this, and this. Metaphor, show this. Visual aid, slide 14 from presentation 5. If you're using Blueprint software, you can actually attach it right to it. You can attach the link, you can attach the graphic, you can attach the video clip, whatever you want. But don't worry about that. You just want to make sure you've got that. And here's the cool part. Once you've done that, your book is ready for what happens next, which is have someone interview you following the outline. Interview you. I would do it in Zoom, the platform we're using, not Zoom Webinar, which is what we're using today, but just the normal Zoom meeting room, because you can have visual and you get an audio file, you get the visual file all at once, one click, and it's done. It's an incredible way to do it and a lot of fun. And so what you do then is you get someone to interview you and record the entire thing. You take the audio file and you get it transcribed. There's a ton of services out there. It's basically very scalable. It's about $1 a minute. About $1 a minute. So if
my favorite is Rev. It's an app on my phone, Rev. You literally, it's completely integrated in with your payment and everything. I'll show you real quick. Like, this thing has absolutely transformed my ability to record and write. So you literally press the button, you start talking, or you can actually upload a previously recorded audio file and it automatically goes off to transcription by human beings. who come back and create the great, framework from that transcription, and then go get it edited. That's like my secret sauce.
And what's the URL for that?
Rev.com.
Perfect. REV.
Yeah, REV. I'll put it in the box there. But it's an app. It's an online. It's a website as well. But it's awesome stuff.
And if you're, I was going to say if you're cheap, but if you don't have the budget for that, right? Because let's say it's 5 hours of recording, it'd be $300 to get that transcribed, roughly.
Yep. Right.
Here's a little trick: load it up to YouTube, make it private, wait a little while, and they'll transcribe it for you.
That's true. Yeah.
Doesn't always work. Doesn't always work on long ones. You might have to break it up into smaller chunks depending on how long your YouTube channel has been around. I've noticed that in the last few months. Doesn't always work. But once your YouTube channel is sort of grandfathered in, it works as long as you want to make it. Hours and hours and hours long. You just load it up and they do all the work. Now, it's a lot of work to take that out and get rid of their time codes. So it's tedious, but it's free.
Yeah.
And it's pretty darn accurate. Like I'm impressed. It's not transcription accurate at all. But if you're on a tight budget, it's a great way to do it.
Darn close, yeah.
So that's the process. That's the process of doing this, and you get an amazing book that has impact. It is focused. It has a clear outcome. It has a well-defined strategy. And with all of your proving strategies, it's actually valuable. It's enjoyable. It's a fun journey. And because you're recording it as you go through, you don't have to worry about the languaging of it. You can do the editing part later on, right? And the polishing part. And by the way, unless you're good at editing and polishing, outsource that.
Yeah.
Go to Upwork or go somewhere, and heavens, unless you're a professional editor, don't edit your own work for a book. It is so obvious when a self-published book is self-edited.
Yeah.
It's also obvious when a self-published book is self-designed. So book design is different than cover design. Make sure you're distinguishing those. Please, people. There is no reason whatsoever to not get your book designed once you're ready. And there's no reason whatsoever not to get it properly edited. And of course, most people know you got to get a good cover, and so you want to get a good design. But of those three, I'll tell you, of those three, focus on the book design, then the editing, then the cover design. And that would be my priority in terms of ranking those things. Anything you want to add to this, Frank?
A great editor will save your tail. I love my professional editors have made a lot of people think it's all about just the commas and the periods and the semicolons. And, if you just put it into Word, it'll like give you a little red squiggly lines under the stuff that's wrong. That you need to go so much further beyond that. Don't just let yourself self-edit it, for sure. I mean, first of all, don't self-edit it when you're writing, first of all. If you do the transcription process, you don't have to worry about that. But even if you sit down to type, if that's more your style, don't self-edit. Just write garbage and then take care of it later. But absolutely get a good editor. And editors have made my book so much better than I could have made on my own. They've been lifesavers.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into the questions section. As we promised, every single hour, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. The best way to do this is to hover on the screen, look for the Q&A box, and type them in there, because then Frank and Anita can manage them and share them with me as we go along. On any part of what we just covered is what we'd like to focus on for this hour. And depending on how many questions you have, we'll go, and then we'll talk about how you can take this to a much, much higher level with our help if you're interested. And then we'll get into hour 2, which is all about the strategic philanthropy book launch. Any questions on writing your book, on outcomes, on how to organize it, how to audio record it to get this thing done? We had someone on this call that mentioned earlier on that they did their book in 29 days and got it up and running on Kindle. I'd love to get your input on that as well. And we've got some questions.
So yeah, some questions here. So first of all, this is from Margaret. She says, what is book design? Just layout? Like, can we specify the very specific elements that have to be as a part of book design?
Yeah, absolutely. So book design is a very unique subset that is all about how the words look on the page, whether it's an ebook or a physical book. It's really obvious in a physical book. If you take a book that's been self-published and professionally published and open them up and look inside, you can just tell. You can immediately tell. One builds subconscious confidence, and the other is words on a page. It's like someone printed a Word doc. In fact, in many cases, that's exactly what's happened. Yeah. So now that's the good news. The bad news is, in order to make it look awesome, they're going to lock your book down. They're going to say, that's it. No more indexing, no more stories, no more nothing. We're done. We're locking it down. And they're going to charge you for that if you're going to change it every single time. So finding the person, important to do in advance, but using them, wait. Wait until you're really, 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 really done, and then have them do it. Now, the problem is it's not a quick process, because to do it well, they manually do it for every single page. They manually do it for every single page. Yep. And this was a real shocker to me when I went back to get a book changed that I was working on with a client of mine, and we just wanted to make one simple change to chapter 1. And, no problem, just do that. No, they had to change every book, every single page. Yeah. Like it cascades forward because they're hard coded if they're done well. So it's all about, and it's a specific profession. So if you're using a site like Upwork to find someone to do this, or even start the process on Fiverr, it's book design. It's very, very different. And it's how the words look on the page. And the really good ones will have a different look and feel for ebook versus physical book. One of the simple things, though, is when you're evaluating this, is look for really useful margins. Many people that self-publish try and get their margins as tight to the edge of the page as possible to limit the number of pages to reduce the cost of printing. That is the worst editing strategy in mankind. There's not a big difference between a 150-page book and a 200-page book today. Yeah. There's not a big difference. You're talking less than 50 cents in any sort of print volume. Less than 50 cents a book. So please don't design your book to minimize your pages. Instead, I would suggest design your book to maximize your impact. Anything on book design you want to add in, Frank?
Nope, I think that's good. And we got tons of questions. I want to make sure we got some good time. So Evelyn asks, how does the interviewer know what questions to ask, and how does the flow get maintained?
Love it. So you want to have an interviewer who is what I call Larry King-like. That ages me a bit for some of the people listening in, but Larry King, longtime TV and radio interviewer, over 50 years on air. Larry King was fascinated about everything. I swear, he could have a house painter on his show and say, so when you roll the paint, what's it like watching the paint dry? Is it different with a thick brush or a thin brush or a horsehair brush? Or what about a roller? What about a thick nap roller or a thin roller? How does that work? Like, I swear, Larry King would be fascinated with the answers to those questions. And so as a result, it made for great TV because he was so fascinated you were drawn in. It was like, wow, I never even thought watching paint dry would be fascinating, but you kind of make the point, Larry. You get drawn in. So heavens to Murgatroyd here, make sure the person interviewing you is genuinely fascinated about the topic they are interviewing you. Number one, most important. Number two, they follow your blueprint. All they do is follow your blueprint. So, Frank, you mentioned in this area there are 3 keys to point number 6.
Right.
Tell me about them.
Yep.
And Frank's got the outline in front of him, and Frank follows along, and he's already got his talking points because he's got his story, his metaphor, his visual aid already done. Like, he already knows. You may not have your visual graphic perfectly ready for the book, but you know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because you've identified it in your blueprinting phase. Mm-hmm. So when we first did this, the interview took us 2 days. My book earned twice as much with half the stress. Any of you that have ever got it, you've seen it. It's amazing. Very, very proud of it. It's done incredibly well for generating revenue for us. But it wasn't designed to sell hard copies. It was designed to generate revenue in the strategy we're going to talk about today. And that book was recorded in 2 days. My co-author was living in San Diego. I was in Vancouver. He flew up to Vancouver. 2 days. We recorded it. It was done. Boom. And in our case, we interviewed each other because we were jointly doing the book. So if you have a co-author, you can just interview each other, providing your co-author is fascinated. All right, next question.
Yeah. So next question is, what's the minimum budget we need to set aside for a 1,000-page large font size and image-friendly book?
Well, first off, a book shouldn't be 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be 1,000 pages. It should be a book series then. And the reason is what we started with at the very beginning of this. For those of you that joined in late, you might have missed this. 250 books are sold on average a year, and 60% of books are never opened. So if you do a 1,000-page book, when a typical book is 200 pages in a business application, that's like 5 books worth of material. Nobody thinks you're making it easier.
Yeah, right.
Right, number one. Number two, make it a series. You'll make more money and you'll get more people to read and consume your books. And more important than all of that, they'll take action. Now, having said that, if there is a very specific reason why it must be that size, it would be roughly 5 times the cost of doing a 200-page book. And all in, you're looking at outsourcing costs of between $3,000 and $5,000 if you want to use pros who know what they're doing. So call it $4,000 in the middle on a 200-page book. Awesome people, awesome job. Could you find cheaper people? Absolutely. Could you find better people? Yep. And could you spend more? Oh yeah, you can spend way more. You can spend that much on editing depending on who you do. But $4,000 for a 200-page business book's a great budget to consider in terms of out-of-pocket hard costs on that. And if it's a 1,000-page book, it'd be 5 times that, 20 grand.
Yeah.
But don't do it. Don't do a 1,000-page book.
Yeah, no, exactly. And okay, so there's another question here, Tom, wondering if you'll let me take this one. Can you talk a little bit more about outcomes, specifically to individuals and then those who have his group and consulting working for business and organization? And let me touch on this briefly. We're going to cover this in detail in hour 3. But I would say when you think about an outcome, think about your target market for who the book is and who you want to work with. And think about what's keeping them up at night, right? So if it's an individual, what's keeping them up at night? What are they really worried about? And then ask yourself and challenge yourself about that, because a lot of times we think what they need is actually not really the problem. So for example, let's say you're an HR consultant, right? And you think to yourself, well, what's keeping this organization up at night is they desperately need performance management infrastructure in their organization. I can guarantee you the CEO of that company is not waking up at the 2 o'clock in the morning and going, performance management. That's not what's keeping them up at night. It is efficiency, productivity, profitability, right? So that's the outcome. And yes, better performance management is a step on the way there, right? So just be very clear about that point, but we'll cover it in more detail in hour 3.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize this. There is a world of difference between how you monetize this if you listen to what Frank just said. There's not a world of difference in terms of how you entertain people with your book, but there's a world of difference in how you monetize it. Because when you're focusing on outcomes, you're serving them at a higher level. And they know it, and they get it. And when they get it, they want to work with you, because you are making their life easier.
Yeah.
All right. Time for a couple more questions.
Yep.
This is great, guys. Thank you for all these questions.
Yeah. So I consider teaching crash reconstruction using simplified fault tree analysis, FTA's backward charting of sequence of events. Can you give me some references on the Merlin method? Do you have any specific references, Tom?
I don't even know what crash reconstruction is.
Well, I think I think what Leonard is saying here is that the fault tree analysis technique, which is a backward charting of sequence events, is actually similar to what you described as the Merlin method. There's actually some mathematical techniques that are similar to that too, right? Sequencing, I feel like in the old days before computers, if you had to do a complex routing of planes across a number of different places, you started from the end and you backed it up. So I think the point is that the Merlin method is a great concept that actually covers a lot of these different areas here.
Yeah, and see, I live in the woods near Vancouver, so fault tree analysis is if you climb the wrong tree, the branch will break. So I don't want to do that one. I knew it wasn't that, but thank you for that highbrow discussion. So Leonard, the key is that this is about figuring out your methodology. So absolutely, if you've got a detailed process, a very complex process, when they were, I had a chance to meet someone that was involved in the moon launch program years ago. An actual NASA astronaut, actually. It was a VIP luncheon. My son was there at the Kennedy Space Center. It was super cool. And he was a Brazilian astronaut, and he was involved in the ground crew. He wasn't in the ship, but he was involved in the ground crew. And that's how they got to the moon. They started with, that's where we're ending up. Actually, to be fair, they started with astronauts safely home. And then they worked backwards all the way along. So this principle can apply in very detailed, very scientific analysis for sure. But you have to break it down to many, many parts. And you're not necessarily going to cover every single part in a book, therefore, right? Maybe you cover the methodology and the process, but your deep dive is your value-added high-margin product.
Yeah, right.
Okay, one more.
One last question. If some of your proof points or visual aids, how do you get those handled in the interview?
You wanted, great question. Who was that?
That was Evelyn.
Evelyn, great question, Evelyn. One of the things you want to do is know what your graphic's going to be about in advance. I know that sounds self-evident, but know what it's going to be about. Like if it's going to be a Venn diagram with 3 overlapping circles, great. Then you know what it's going to be, so you can speak to them as if they're seeing it. Now, extra for experts, if you've got it, you can put it on the screen, fantastic, because your recording becomes a very valuable product in and of itself. But don't let that stop you. As long as you know what you're going to be expressing in that visual graphic, you can speak to it as if it's there. Because fundamentally in the book, it's going to be, as you can see on the chart here, blah, 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 blah. And don't say above or below or beside or whatever. Just say the chart here, or the accompanying image, or the accompanying graphic, or the accompanying checklist. Checklist, by the way, I should have added that to the list. I should have had a checklist for that. Checklists are one of the great aids, because if you've got 30 items to cover in this one little piece, you sure as heck don't want to cover all 30 items or you'll lose the reader.
Yeah, right.
You'll lose the reader. I mean, when my first book was How to Start and Run a Coffee Bar. We've now sold over 140,000 copies. We've sold more books than every other author on the topic added up, which is pretty amazing. And we filled it with checklists: opening checklists, closing checklists, cash out checklists, construction checklists, lease negotiation checklists. We filled it with checklists, and it made that book way more valuable than if the checklists weren't there. So keep that in mind too. And by the way, some of you may immediately be thinking, yeah, but I'm giving away my whole methodology. That's what I want to sell in the high ticket program. Frank, what do you say to that?
I'm sorry, I cut out there for a second.
Oh, so if people are saying, I don't want to put all my checklists in the book, that's giving away my methodology in my high ticket program.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, so absolutely give away the information. And people are like, but here's the thing, guys. Like we used to be in an information economy, right? Where it was all about information. I've got the information, you don't have the information, you're going to pay me and I'm going to give you the information. That is not true anymore. We're in a post-information economy. We are now in the results-oriented economy, and that means that you need to be able to drive value in the outcome, in the results for your client. So give them the information. People can find a lot of that stuff for free. Trust me, I know you're probably brilliant on the subject, but there, Google and Wikipedia are going to probably have a lot of the same information. Yes, you've made it more bite-sized. Yes, you've made it more accessible, but your value add is going to eventually be in helping people get the result. That's why we want you to be outcome-oriented on day one, so that you can actually make the money on the back end, because the money is not in the information. The money is in the result for your client.
Great answer, and a perfect segue, because our opportunity for you to take this to a deeper level is all about what Frank just said. So we're going to describe the opportunity for some of you to come and do this at a deeper level with us now in the next 10 minutes or so. Then we're going to get into the second hour, which is all about the strategic philanthropy book launch, which is how do you create a tribe of raving fans. So, and whether or not you're interested in doing something with us, you can learn from the method we're about to show you many different ways. First off, if you do your own master classes, you're going to want to build an offer into your master class the way we do it. And so you can learn from this. The second thing is, fundamentally, a master class is about teaching the method and then saying, if you're a self-starter, go to it. You've got our entire method. Go to it. We wish you well. Oh, you're not a self-starter. You'd like help? Here's how we would help you. So you don't need fancy sales verbiage, fancy NLP. By now, you should be thinking blah, 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 blah. None of that stuff is necessary in a great masterclass because you're simply saying, here's the way to do it. Oh, you want help? And that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
The challenge most people have is actually getting this done.
Yeah.
And so here's our position for you is give us 18 months and we'll turn you into $1 million authority guaranteed. 18 months and we'll guarantee it. We're going to write your book for you, right? We're going to write your book for you. We're going to do the exact process we just described and do that. We're going to create a high ticket program for you. So you've got something to sell from the raving fans in the book. And then we're going to create the entire strategic philanthropy book launch so you can build your tribe of raving fans and monetize to 7 figures. What I want you to ask is, what would you be willing to do if you could have an exceptional book written for you within 90 days? Have a complete high margin, high ticket program created for you to impact the world. Have a full masterclass created to help educate, inspire, and motivate your ideal target market to invest in your high ticket program. On top of that, you would actually be able to raise a whole bunch of money for a cause you believe in and have a complete strategic philanthropy book launch done for you, every single step of it. We'll talk about the cause in the next hour and how that ties in. You'll raise money for the cause and raise money for you. You'll create a tribe of at least 5,000 raving fans, and you will convert that tribe into $1 million in revenue in the next 18 months. We call it the $1 million book launch. And I'm telling you, we are going to change the way the entire book publishing world plays their game as of today. Those of you that are here live, you're going to see this for the very first time. For those of you that are watching the webinar rebroadcast, you're going to be among the first few hundred entrepreneurs in the world to see this, because from this point forward, the book publishing business will never be the same. There will be people who focus on outcome and everybody else. We're super excited about it. And we call it the $1 million book launch on purpose. There's 5 steps involved to do this and to guarantee results. 5 steps. The first is writing a book for you, tapping into your genius. So we will break down your genius and we'll organize it for you. Get it back to you, tweak it, get it all organized, get the teaching stories all put together. And then Anita will interview you and pull out your genius as that happens. Second, Frank will create a high-ticket, high-margin program based upon the outcome from the book. So they'll be completely in alignment, the book and the high-ticket program. And then you will go out and validate that to make sure the market loves it before we publish the book even. You'll be making money selling your high-ticket program before your book is even published, because as Frank pointed out when we were putting this together, there is no point in putting together a high-ticket program that doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And Frank's going to talk a lot about that in the third hour, so I won't get into that right now. Then we're going to build your entire strategic philanthropy book launch website, a Kickstarter-style program. We're going to talk about that in detail in the next hour. We're going to drive traffic to your launch. We're responsible for driving traffic. We're responsible for getting the 5,000 raving fans, and then we're going to help you scale to 7 figures. All of that is included in the $1 million book launch. So let's break this down and talk about each of these parts a little bit more. The first part is write your book, tapping your genius. So everything we talked about in the first hour, we're going to do. You provide the genius, and we do everything else. It also includes all of the editing, the book design, the cover design, the ISBN number, all the technical specs, getting it Kindle ready and all the various platforms that are out there so that it's done, and 100 copies in your hand. 100 copies in your hand so that you've got physical books to use, plus a really, really low price that we've negotiated with a book printing organization out of the UK, so you can have large volume copies or medium volume copies or small volume copies at very affordable prices.
And Anita is your personal Larry King. You don't even have to go track down a Larry King. We bring Anita to you to do that.
In fact, Anita's so good. Larry King is kind of the Anita Narayan.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, just call me Merlin.
There you go. Very nice.
We're going to create the high ticket, high margin program. I'm going to skip by this only because we're going to spend the entire third hour talking about this, but this is the key to monetizing this, folks. This is very, very important. The entire Strategic Philanthropy Launch website, we're going to talk all about that, what you need to do on your own in the next hour, and if you decide to apply and qualify for this, we'll do that entirely for you. Then we're going to drive traffic. We're going to get the cause that you select to market. We're going to inspire external partners to market, and we're going to buy traffic to market. Could be Facebook, could be LinkedIn, could be a combination of both, depending on your ideal target market. And we're going to drive traffic until you get 5,000 people on your list. For those of you that are existing authors, you know Amazon is the top place for selling books. You don't get the names. You don't get their names, right? If they happen to reach out to you, great. But you don't get their names. With the Strategic Philanthropy Book Launch, you get everyone's name, everyone's contact information, which of course then allows you to invite them to a masterclass, which allows them to be inspired by your high ticket offer, which is the last part. We'll coach and support you through group coaching and a mastermind until you've generated $1 million. Until you've generated $1 million. We believe this creates the ultimate situation for an authority figure that wants to share their wisdom with a book and make real income along the way. So what are you responsible for in this model? Well, the first part is your wisdom. You got to bring us your wisdom. This is not for someone that doesn't have wisdom. If you don't have this figured out, this is not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Okay? Second, you're responsible to validate the high ticket program. That means test it and then sell it. That's your job in this opportunity, in this program. You have to sell it because it's your program. You have to pick a cause for the Strategic Philanthropy Book Launch. We give you some criteria to make it an awesome cause so that it's strategic, but you ultimately pick it, and we both have to agree on it. And then you have to run your masterclass, sell your prospects, and deliver the high ticket program. You're going to sell it for 10 or 20 or 50 or $100,000. You're the one delivering on that high ticket program. So you're going to run the masterclass, sell it, and deliver on it. What are we responsible for? Basically everything else. We're going to write, edit, publish the fully finished book, create the high ticket, high margin program, create the entire Strategic Philanthropy Book Launch, the website, and drive all the traffic to it, and then coach and support you until you sell your first $1 million in program.
And I want to pause on that one for a second, Tom, because people may be thinking to themselves, well, you just said I got to sell the program. Oh my gosh. I want to let you know, as part of this book launch, as part of the $1 Million Book Launch, we are going to coach you around sales. We're going to teach you how to sell a high ticket program. We're going to coach you through the process. You're going to have people to work with so that when you had, I had a sales call, I didn't know what to say. You're going to actually have people to go to help you make sure it happens. So yes, you're going to be doing the sales calls, but you're not alone. You will be backed up by our full team to help you go through that entire process.
So what's this going to cost? Well, for $1 million, and we'll teach you to do this, you want to get a 10x return on your capital, it's $100,000. However, it's not $100,000 up front. Because we're so confident of this method, we're going to make this thing a complete no-brainer, we believe. You pay $12,500 if you're accepted to the program. Now, note there's no fee to apply to see if you qualify. Right? So you apply, it doesn't cost you a dime to see if you qualify. If you're accepted and you like it and we like it and we go for it, it's $12,500. With that, your book is done, your masterclass is done, your high ticket margin program is done, all up front, all for $12,500, many of which any one of those three could cost a lot more. Once you've sold $50,000 of your high ticket program, and not until you pay another $12,500. Once you pass the $250,000 mark, you pay $25,000 more. And once you get to the million, you pay the final $50,000. If you don't get to those benchmarks, you get all that stuff for that first payment. And you get all of our coaching and support. But here's the thing. Do not take the step of applying if you think you won't get there. Because I can promise you this. If we accept you in this program, because not everyone's going to be accepted, we have to make sure that we can deliver for you. We have to know we can deliver for you. And so if you book a strategy session with one of our amazing team led by Francine, she will make sure that we only accept people that we know we can deliver results for. But having said that, all those other payments are linked to that. See, we're so confident in our model that if you qualify, we're financing 87.5% of your investment. And it's part of our triple guarantee. Let me quickly explain how that works. Our triple guarantee is exactly what it says. There are 3 guarantees. The first part is a viable program guarantee. You don't make that second payment till you sold $50,000 of your high ticket program. That means if the program we come up with doesn't work, we're going to have to reinvent it or retweak it or retrain you until it does. We don't get that second initial payment until you've sold $50,000 worth of programs. Second, we call it the no more expenses guarantee. At no time during the book launch, the $1 Million Book Launch, will we come to you for any of the operational expenses when it relates to the book, the masterclass, or the program. Not a single dime more. And the last one is our $1 million guarantee. That final $50,000 payment doesn't even happen until you generate $1 million in revenues. We wanted to take the risk as much as possible off your shoulders and put it on ours. Now, I know $12,500 is still a commitment, and it absolutely is, because we want you to have some skin in the game too. But 87.5% is financed. And if you decide to apply for this and are accepted, if you decide to apply within 24 hours of watching this, so for those that are here live, by the end of business tomorrow, which is Saturday, and for those of you watching the webinar rebroadcast, it'll be tagged in our system 24 hours after you watch the masterclass. Then you're going to get 3 really powerful bonuses to make it even more worth your while. Because if you're a take action person, we know you're more likely to execute on this. And if that's the case, you're more likely to get results. And there are 3 barriers for you crushing this on your side. The masterclass, doing a great job, screening and selling prospects, and coaching of your clients in your high ticket programs. And so we've included a bonus on each of those. I'm not going to go through these in detail right now because we're going to cover that in the next hour, but just know this, there will be a bonus on each of these topics that takes you through how to run your masterclass, how to close the high ticket program sales. So if you're not used to selling something for this price point, you will learn precisely how to do that, what's involved every single step of the way. And in this case, there's 4 modules that Frank's including that take you through exactly the steps on what to do that. And then I'm going to teach you how to run your mastermind. I have an entire division that's all about masterminds. It's called Get It Together. And we've developed some amazing training tools on how to run a profitable mastermind. You're going to get all of that included as a bonus if you apply within 24 hours of the masterclass. You have to be accepted, obviously, to get the bonuses. But if you take a while to think about it, you don't get those bonuses. You're going to be on your own. So it's definitely worth, if you end up thinking, yeah, this is worth doing, you're going to want to jump on that. Oh, one other thing. What if you're all in, but your cash flow sucks? We'll help you figure out how to finance it. Never, never, never let your lack of current cash flow stop you from doing something that makes good business sense. I learned that a long time ago. As Frank said at the start of this masterclass, made and lost millions. That's me. And I've learned more from my losses than from my wins. I can tell you that. So it's very, very powerful. Do not let that stop you. We'll give you access to a complete training program on how you can raise the $12,500 even. And frankly, if you need to raise that, you'll raise extra so you have some working capital while this is being developed as well, because that means you're too tight. And when an entrepreneur is stressed, pressure and noise goes up, creativity goes down, right? When pressure and noise goes up, creativity goes down. That's how entrepreneurs function. If our pressure and noise is too high, we're nowhere near as creative. You want to be creative when we're tapping in your genius. And you'll see the link on the screen. If you're interested in applying, we'll post it in the chat box so you've got that as well.
It's already there.
It's already there. Fantastic. We want you to get into what we call the 20% club. These are the people that actually get crushing results. And so what you do when you apply is you book a strategy session. You give us an hour. We'll talk about it. We'll see if we can help you crush it. And if not, we'll tell you. And if you look at it and say, you know what, I don't think I can, I don't think this is right for me, then you've just invested an hour of your time. We appreciate it, and you go forward. And on the other hand, if it's a perfect fit and we think it's a great fit and you think it's a great fit, then we'll go and your book will be done within 90 days and we'll generate $1 million worth of revenue within 18 months guaranteed. All right, we are 3 minutes and 40 seconds over time. So we're going to take a very short break. In fact, you know what? Let's not. Let's just jump right into this. For those of you that need to, on your end, you go ahead and do what you need to do. You're going to get a recording. Remember this. But this is really important stuff. Coming up right now is the Strategic Philanthropy book launch. It is everything you need to know to create a tribe of raving fans, right? A tribe of raving fans is what this will create. And there's a huge difference between opt-ins and raving fans. And our philosophy is, if you wrap this around raising money for a cause, especially a relevant related cause, and we'll give you all the steps for that in a moment, how to pick a great cause, in a Kickstarter style fundraiser, you raise a bunch of money for the cause and you get far more motivated participants. But you also get one other really critical thing. What's that, Frank? What's the critical thing that happens in a Kickstarter style campaign versus, say, Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, these are folks who actually engage with you. You actually get their contact information. You're able to continue the process, continue the engagement after the fact, right?
Yeah, it's that contact information. You know who they are.
Yeah. You
can't have a raving fan if they're just someone that read your book and you don't know who they are. You might get a nice comment on Amazon, okay? But that's not going to turn into $10 or $25 or $50,000 of sales, right? They have to hunt you down. And I can tell you, as a guy that sold 140,000 plus books, and I had people hunt me down, it's a lot of work to take those people, if they're not a raving fan, and turn them into results. This is about turning into raving fans as you recruit them. As you recruit them. It's all about doing good and making money at the same time. So let's jump into this. What a surprise. There are 5 steps, 5 stages to doing what we call a strategic philanthropy book launch. And by the way, whether or not you decide to apply for the $1 million book launch, please do this with your book. Please do this with your book. Don't sell how to do this and call it a strategic philanthropy book launch. That's our brand. Don't be silly. But do a strategic philanthropy book launch, whether or not you become a client of ours, because this will accelerate the process of getting your tribe together. The first key is to pick a great cause. And we're going to break that down in 6 steps in a moment on how to do that. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that. The next step is to create your offers. For those of you that aren't familiar with Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it's an opportunity for you to buy into someone's vision, kind of like a GoFundMe campaign, except it's wrapped around a venture, a business, an initiative of some sort. So you want to create your offers. We'll break that down as well. You're going to choose and build your platform. Very important. Kickstarter is just one option. We're going to talk about the main options for you on this hour. Then you got to drive traffic. You got to drive traffic to it. Most Kickstarter style campaigns don't hit their funding targets. Most, the vast majority, over 70%, last time I saw the data, do not fund. So you have to, traffic driving is really critical to make this work. And then you want to recognize and reward referrals to accelerate the process of driving traffic. Those are the 5 steps. Those are the 5 steps. So if you're going to do a screen capture, this is where you do it. Reminder for those of you that are here at the end, and you guys are sticking through, fantastic. Look at this number. I keep writing down the numbers. We track this. If you stick to the very end, we'll get you a copy of all of these keynote presentations. So all the notes are there as you're going through that. Remember, stick around to the end, you'll get that. So what's first is picking a great cause. You want to identify a cause that aligns with your vision, with your mission and your vision. It's really important. You want to find something that aligns with it. Why? Because part of your marketing will come from the cause. And so if it's a great cause but has nothing to do with your book, you're not going to get a lot of quality leads out of it. You're not going to get a lot of quality leads out of it. And second, the leverage that comes with a cause comes in part from aligning with your mission. Then you want to specifically use the PROFIT acronym that I'm going to teach you in a moment to create what we call a transformation contribution program. And then you want to get the cause's support and buy-in to that method. You want to get the cause's support and buy-in. So here's what I call the transformation contribution program. If you are taking notes, write PROFIT in a vertical line, and you're going to get a word for each of them. The first one's P, which is PR potential. And the best example of that is how I came across strategic philanthropy in the first place. I was building coffee bars. We were doing a roaster inside the coffee bar, and it was a new technology. It looked like sort of like a commercial microwave stood on end. It was a stainless steel box, and you put the coffee in, set the timer, and 8 minutes later, out came fresh, hot, roasted coffee. So literally, our customers would come in, look at the green bean, say, I'll take a pound of Guatemalan Antigua, medium roast, please. And we'd roast it for them, and 8 minutes later, they'd take it home hot. It was amazing, an unbelievable experience. Never been done. At that time, this is called a roaster retailer in the industry today. At that time, there were about 200 of these in the entire world. Now there's 2,000 in North America alone. But back then, this was brand new, and nobody was doing roasting on demand. I mean, nobody. They were all big batch roasters. To this day, almost all of them are big batch roasters. So it was fresh, but not fresh for you. Not fresh for you. So it was very innovative. And we were awarding all sorts of franchises, and we were getting tons of media coverage. And after the first 2 years, we were the fastest growing coffee franchise in North America, outgrowing Second Cup and Gloria Jeans, the two largest coffee franchises in the world at the time. By the way, Starbucks is not a franchise. They're all corporately run, except in the countries where they can't be, but they've never been franchised. So Starbucks is not a franchise in the coffee world. Gloria Jeans, big in the US, and Second Cup, big in Canada, were the two largest. We outgrew each of those in total numbers, not percentage-wise. And over that period of time, we had 23 articles in local newspapers because we knew PR was a good strategy, and we got lots of PR. And I was sitting down looking at these 23 articles, and one talked about our roasting technology that I just told you about, which was super innovative, never being done anywhere. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh, and all of our coffee was certified organic. One talked about that. The other 22 talked about our program where we donated 50 cents from every pound of coffee that we sold, spilled, sampled, gave away, roasted, 50 cents from every pound of coffee to Coffee Kids. Coffee Kids, an organization that funds microloans in developing countries so women get out of the slavery of the coffee world. Because that's what it is. It's economic slavery. 22 articles led with that. And they mentioned the roasting somewhere in the article, but they led with Coffee Kids. And I was sitting there complaining to one of my partners about that, and she said, "Are you nuts? You got, how many articles would you have without that? One? You got 23 with it." And all of a sudden I realized, dang, that's what the media cares about. The media cares about saving the world. They don't care about our business and how we're innovating, how roasting is being done. They don't care. I got some great insight into how to get PR. It's all about them and their clients, not me. So first step is find something with PR potential. Second step is make it related to the business that you're in somehow. We built indoor golf training centers. We partnered with a group called Right to Play. You want to relate it to the business that you're in for lots of reasons, but because it also makes sense to relate it to the business that you're in. Frank and I, with our Embark Authority program, we do Kiva microloans. We'll talk about that more in a moment because we believe in helping entrepreneurs all over the world. Kiva funds microloans for developing world entrepreneurs where $50 or $100 or $200 gets them up and running in their business and employs typically 5 people. Incredible program. So if you believe in entrepreneurs like we do, they're a perfect fit. Obligation is the next step. Link it to gross somehow. Tom Shoes, I think, is the best example of this. Casual shoe company out of Austin, Texas. You buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes to people in need in developing countries. Not the same pair of shoes, by the way. They donate shoes that are made for that environment, so they wear much better. They're less comfortable, and they're way more durable, which is an interesting sidebar. Tom Shoes created from scratch $350 million a year in sales in less than 10 years in a super competitive field. Super competitive field. And I've talked to many people that were familiar with Tom Shoes and many people that have owned Tom Shoes. None of them talk about their own shoes. They all talk about helping someone in a developing country wear some really cool shoes. Or in this case, really helpful shoes instead of bare feet. So obligation, make it a percentage of gross somehow. Fun. You may not know this unless you've heard this from me before, but Casual Fridays were started by a jean sales company, denim jeans in Western Canada called Bootlegger. And I was in the shopping center business when that started. I saw the story of what happened. You spent $5, you got to wear a button, you could wear jeans. And it was a marketing strategy by the jeans people, the management of the jeans company, saying people only wear jeans on Saturday and Sunday. If we could get one more day a week, just one more day, we get a 50% increase in jeans, right? For you math experts out there, 2 days a week, now 3 days is 50% more. Well, they actually far exceeded their goals because now it's become socially responsible and acceptable to wear jeans pretty much all the time. But they did it by raising money for a local children's hospital in each market around these buttons and Casual Fridays, and Bootlegger Jeans was the company. Incredible. So make sure the cause you pick is fun, it's enjoyable, it's sustainable energetically. And then focus on independence, not dependence. Anita and I do something called the Strategic Philanthropy Global Summit. And the Strategic Philanthropy Global Summit is all about inspiring entrepreneurs to do good and make money at the same time. Frank will be interviewed in our next summit. Anita will be interviewed in our next summit. It's an incredible opportunity to inspire entrepreneurs. Any of you that have opted in, I promise you will be sent information to listen to these 20 amazing entrepreneurs from all over the globe. It's free, it's online, it's great. In the online summits, you offer an upsell of the recordings. In our case, it'll be offered at $197. 50% will go to Kiva microloans. 50% of gross. Why? Because we love microloans. We love it. And as a result, we will get more people upgrading to VIP than we would otherwise. So in our case, we want to create a movement around inspiring entrepreneurs. We don't need to make money on the front end. There's lots of opportunity on the back end. But what we want to do is create viral sharing, which is really important. The last part of the formula is time. T, do it for the long term. CKNW Orphans Fund is my favorite example. They've been doing this since the 40s in Vancouver. They're the top radio station in the market. We don't even have orphans in Canada anymore, but it's still called the CKNW Orphans Fund. And in a city of 2.5, 3 million people, their last pledge drive raised $6 million. $6 million in a city of 2.5, 3 million people. 2.5 to 3 million people. Amazing feat. Why? Because they really are committed to this and they've been doing it forever. And anyone that's lived in this market knows about the CKNW Orphans Fund, and it's really inspiring and cool, and everybody wants to support them. Everyone wants to support them. So that's the first step. Pick a cause. Pick a cause. Next step, you got to create your offers. You actually need to come up with the offers that people will use. And you want to look at the best practices from groups like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Kickstarter.com, Indiegogo.com. Remember, you're going to get the slides so you can get all the exact URLs if you're not familiar with that. Here's something important, though. The average supporter spends $60 to $70. $60 to $70. So you want to have several things below that and several things above that. 8 to 10 total is best practices today. And you want to build several amazing high-end options in there that create a viral sharing buzz. So if you're on Indiegogo and you see a movie being funded, you can become executive producer for like $20,000, $25,000. You can get a red carpet experience and be in the Oscars on the red carpet, or the faux Oscars. Read the fine print, depending on who's doing what. they build this amazing sizzle in. Now, if you believe in clean water, you can get invited to Matt Damon's private pool party or something. I mean, a lot of the Hollywood executives have really got into lending their name to great causes. Well, guess what? Once you've identified your cause, get out there and start Googling who is a fan of that type of cause and look for the celebrities that love that. And talk to them and say, hey, Matt Damon, would you do lunch with da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Yeah, I'd be open to that. All right, we'll package it at $10,000. We'll only do 2 of them. How's that? Great. And you pay for lunch, right? And Matt Damon offers his time. That's an example of creating viral sharing around your offers. You want to do that. Next up, you want to choose and build your platform. You actually want to decide, is it going to be Kickstarter, which is sort of the biggest in breed in the industry, or Indiegogo, or a version of GoFundMe, which is more about raising capital, pure raising capital. In addition, you could create your own. And this is the beautiful thing about WordPress and today's modern economy. You can use a WordPress plugin. And what I'm going to do is share you the 4 top plugins that we love and believe in. The first one is Ignition Deck. Ignition Deck. The second one is something called WP Crowdfunding. The next one is a WordPress fundraising project, if you can believe it. It's by MU Dev, if you know those guys, WPMU Dev, WordPress fundraising. And the last one is another WP crowdfunding one, but from a different company. It's inside WordPress. In addition, you can create your own site and make it look super sharp and do everything on your own. And this link, and you'll get the slides, so you can just click on it or do a screen capture now. That's all the ones that are going to come on here. So if you're going to screen capture people, do it right now. This link will get you to an article on the 10 or 12 best themes, WordPress themes, that make you look like a really sharp professional crowdfunding platform from scratch. It's a lot of work, but in WordPress, it's doable. It's just a lot of hours. Okay, it's a lot of hours. So now you've got your offer, you've got your cause, you got your site being put together. Now the real important stuff. You got to drive traffic. You got to drive traffic. Focus on 6 to 7 weeks. Focus on 6 to 7 weeks. You're going to get most of your purchases in the first 3 days and the last 3 days. So don't make it a 6-month program. Focus your energy, focus your effort, focus your money all in one area. The first traffic source obviously is your own audience. If you've got a list, if you've got social media connections, start with your own audience. Really important to do that. Way more important, though, is to get referral partners on board to promote, right? So for those of you that decide to become a client of ours on the $1 Million Book Launch, we have dozens and dozens of referral partners that are ready to promote great causes right now. They do it now. They're involved now. They support us on profit-making ventures and have on and off for several years, but they can't wait to support good causes wrapped around profit-making ventures, i.e. strategic philanthropy initiatives. So we've got dozens of them, but if you're used to this world, you'll have some already that have promoted for you before, or you've promoted for them. Now you can call that favor in and get them to promote for you. Or if you're really aggressive, you can approach people cold and try and get them to promote for you. But that takes building a relationship, so you've got to be a bit more careful. If you don't have partners in this area, I'd recommend the next strategy more, which is buy cold traffic from Facebook and LinkedIn. From Facebook and LinkedIn. And we can get you the names of some really good people that we recommend in that area. But there are a lot of people out there that know how to drive traffic cost effectively in both those marketplaces. And if you're a business-to-business audience, focus on LinkedIn. If you're not a business-to-business audience, focus on Facebook. And many will do both. Many will work well for both. We want to focus on driving that traffic strategy and really getting the opt-ins. And remember, you're going to have 8 to 10 offers. So some will be very low end. Maybe it's just an ebook, right? What's the cost of an ebook? Virtually nothing. So you can offer that at $5 or $10 and make it a no-brainer for people to support you. But they paid money for your ebook. It's a very different person than that someone that's downloaded it for free. Very different proposition. I want to give you an example here before we continue. There's an organization out there called JVIC, Joint Venture Insider Circle, run by Milana Lashinsky and Rich Gurman. Rich bought Milana out, so now it's just Rich. Rich was doing a book a few years ago, and a good friend of mine was his launch manager on the book. Alan Davidson is his name. And Alan decided to take this strategic philanthropy approach that we're discussing today for Rich's book launch. Rich cares very deeply about the oceans and mammals and dolphins and saving those sorts of creatures of the wild. He stand-up paddleboards virtually every day, lives in Southern California, and it's an awesome lifestyle. And he cares deeply about those creatures. So he decided to do a book launch where the money went to that cause. He picked an organization that supported that. And in this case, it wasn't relevant to his work, but it was relevant to his heart. Very relevant to his heart. And in a normal giveaway book launch, you're lucky to get 2,000 or 3,000 people to take your free book. He got over 34,000 people to do that and raise tens of thousands of dollars for his cause in the process. Super leveraged. And here's the other thing. All of the reasons you pick the cause are all the reasons the media loves you, the podcasters love you, the blogosphere loves you, because you're doing good while making money. So they're much more open to squeezing you in on their agenda and adding you in as someone they're interviewing if it's making a difference in the world. Remember those 23 articles we got? 22 were about this, and 1 was about this amazing innovative technology, which I'm sure all the coffee lovers on the call were going, wow, that's pretty innovative technology. I'd love to see one of those to this day, right? More important, the media wanted to talk about saving the world. And now here's the secret sauce. In the last few minutes of this hour, I want to talk about this because this is where most people forget. And that's the leverage comes from recognizing and rewarding your referrals. See, properly done, you're going to generate more than 1 referral for each sale. It's called a viral coefficient for those of you that are into this world of marketing, greater than 1.0. So if you have a 1.5 viral coefficient, that means for every 1 person who buys in or supports your Kickstarter campaign, 1.5 people are referred. That's what you want. You want it to be greater than 1, because here's what happens. Over this 5-6 weeks, it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And that's how you get 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. You don't get it one at a time. You don't get it one at a time. The Strategic Philanthropy Global Summit I mentioned, we did our very first one last year. We had 1,952 people sign up. Very first event, 6 weeks start to finish. We were very, very happy. But only about 900 signed up from all of our speakers and all of our marketing efforts. The other 1,000 came from the referral system we put in place. The referral system we put in place generated more than everything all the rest of us, including the 20 speakers, did. We used a software called UpViral. If you're not familiar with it, make a note of it. It's awesome. It's simple. Now you have to buy it. It's like $200 a month for it, but worth every penny. Worth every penny. And it manages both contests and referral rewards. There's 2 things here. There's contests and referral rewards. So contests are where you're giving away a prize and only 1 person or the top 10 people or something like that get it. That's very important for the high energy type A, go for it competitive types. Very important to have contests. Referral rewards in this context are everyone who does something gets that reward. So if you refer 5 people, you get this benefit unlocked. If you refer 25 people, you get this benefit unlocked, right? We had set it up so that if someone referred, I got to remember last year now, I think it was 50 people, they got the VIP upgrade, which we're selling for $200. So they referred 50 people or more, they got the VIP upgrade included. It's a great way to do that. We get 50 new people listening to our summit, and we give away digital access to our recordings. Now, we actually had people that did that and then came back and said, well, I still want the money to go to charity. Can I contribute it? It was just so sweet. And that tells you your strategic philanthropy is working. So you want to have both contests and referral and rewards as you go through that. All right, so it's 10:28. We're cruising along. It's now Q&A time. And I'm 2 minutes ahead, so I made up some time, Frank. Yay! For those of you that have questions, this is all about your strategic philanthropy book launch. This is all about the platforms, the leverage, the offers, the structure. Any questions you have, start putting them in the Q&A section. Frank and Anita will organize it, and then we'll go through them all, and we'll talk about it. And I'm going to catch my breath for a moment. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, so any questions you got, put them in the Q&A box. We'll be answering them all.
Does this make sense? Is this resonating for you guys? Can you see the power of leveraging?
We got a couple of people already say great stuff, great stuff.
Good.
So just waiting for some questions.
And it could also be questions from the previous hour if you want. And if there's not, we're going to jump ahead and move to the next piece. But, you know, we want to give you as much opportunity as possible to answer your specific questions about how can I apply this? What does it look like? Maybe it's about how do I pick a great cause? You know, how do I find a cause that makes good sense for what I'm doing? Maybe it's questions about how does Kiva work and what's involved in that. We're huge fans of Kiva microloans. It was founded by 2 Microsoft millionaires, and they cover all the operating costs, And so when you invest your money, you get paid interest back. The interest goes back to funding more loans. The principal comes back to you. It's a really cool system.
Yeah. Question here. How do we select from multiple fitting causes?
Well, that used an acronym, the PROFIT, P-R-O-F-I-T, because what I found is if you follow that and they're in alignment with the first 5, T is time, just means stick with it long term. But if you line up the first 5 and then you have competing causes, here's my advice. Go with the smaller one. Go with the smaller one. And the reason is you will stick out more.
Yeah.
So I had someone that was really into dogs. She was a retailer, physical store. We taught her to do the strategic philanthropy initiative, and she wanted to save puppies and dogs. And so she decided to partner with the local SPCA on one of their events specifically. So within that world of SPCA, she was a drop in the bucket. But for that event, she became like 25% of their revenue. It was an incredible impact, and they loved and adored her. And of course, the only people who showed up for that event were people that loved and adored saving dogs, which is what she loves. So she got a whole bunch of great friends out of it and a whole bunch of business. And everyone knew Lisa was her name and Quick Nickel was the business. Lisa at Quick Nickel, she's a good gal. And so people would come and buy more clothes from her. Although that's not why she did it, it ended up having a great impact on her business because she attracted people who cared about saving puppies. Really cool.
Very nice. Does Kickstarter or Indiegogo not provide some free native traffic based on their own marketing and emails to their subscriber base?
Who asked that one? Brilliant question.
That's Shrinindi Sharma.
Shrinindi Sharma. I love it. No. That's the short answer. They'll tell you yes, yes, yes. But the reality is they got thousands and thousands and thousands. Here's what happens. If you drive traffic and if you get sharing going on through their platform, then yes. So that's kind of like the banker saying, if you don't need the money, I'll lend it to you.
Right.
But if you need the money, good luck, Sharinder. You're on your own. That's what happens. And it's a stunning revelation. People think, no, how could that be? Hey, they're in the business of reaching as many people as possible. Yeah. They get thousands and thousands of these, most of which don't even meet their minimums.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like they're evil. It's just they got to make their priorities too.
Yeah, right? I think that's a really important point because I do think a lot of people sort of rely on these platforms. Well, that's why I go to a platform because they'll be able to hand me all that stuff. But that just does not turn out to be the case at all. There's no free lunch.
Now, what I would say is if you have something that's got an edge to it that could be viral beyond yourself, that is a big reason to consider their platform. But don't count on that viral happening without you initiating it all.
Yeah.
Right? If you can initiate it, fantastic. I got sent a friend of a friend runs a barbecue place in northern Alberta. And it's a beautiful barbecue place. It's not rendezvous beautiful, in my opinion, to our Memphian on the call, but it's really, really, it's the closest I've had in Western Canada. Amazing stuff. Fall off the bone. Unbelievable. She sent me, because she got to know me and she knows a barbecue fan, a GoFundMe campaign for her barbecue thing. And essentially, it was give us money so we can bottle our sauce and sell it to a big chain. And I thought, how stupid of a request is that? It didn't even include, Frank, me getting a bottle of sauce or dry rub. Or a recipe to do my own damn dry rub. Like, how cheap are you? You want me to give money to fund your inventory,
right?
And you're giving me nothing in return?
Yeah.
So for those of you that are working this, strategic philanthropy isn't pretend you care. It's care.
Yeah.
Right? And don't do it if you don't care. Like,
right.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. All right, next question.
Yeah. Will this philanthropy book launch work for books for which there's not anticipated to be a follow-on high-ticket program?
Oh, great question. I'll start, and I know you want to jump into this too. The first thing I would say is absolutely it will work for building a list, and absolutely it'll work for raising money for the cause. Now, over to you, Frank.
Yeah. Why would you do that? Yeah, so look, I mean, here's the thing with books, right? No one gets rich from a book. I mean, they really don't. I mean, even New York Times best-selling authors, they'll sell 20, 30, 40, 50,000 books in that first run that'll get them on the list, But you got to think about, what's your take in that book, right? Most people who do this on their own, unless you've got access to consultants who are going to get you a New York Times bestseller, the way you become this, get the launch is you make it 99 cents on Amazon, of which you collect 70% after they deduct expenses for sending your book via Kindle, right? So let's pretend that it's 70 cents a book, right? And it's 30,000 books. I mean, that's it. Then you're done. I really would encourage anyone who is thinking of writing a book to be thinking about their back end. Now, you may decide high ticket program, I don't want to do it. That's not for me. That's fine. But at least have a plan for what your back end is going to be for a book. Do not just write a book and then just hope that the money will come. It will not. You really need to be very intentional about how you pull this off.
Yeah, and I would add one other level of bluntness. Keep your charity for charity.
Yeah.
Don't pretend this is a business strategy if you're going to do that. You may have a very good reason. I don't know who asked that question, by the way.
That was Brian.
Brian may have a very good reason for wanting to do that. Really compelling and really amazing.
Yep.
And it's a save the world type thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all the power to you, man. But don't think you're going to make any money off of that. Remember our second slide at the very start, if you were there, Brian, the saddest thing in the world is a broke philanthropist. Yeah. Go make money, write a different book, launch it, solve a problem that has a powerful outcome, make yourself $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, and then go donate all of that and hire professionals to get that book out there and spread the message around the world.
Yeah.
My sister's working on a book. She's cashed out of her last business, made millions on it. She's working on a book right now that she is planning 100% of the money is going to go to a cause she supports in Sri Lanka. They built schools there since the amazing typhoon flood stuff years ago. And she wants all the money to go to that. Why? She doesn't need the money. But she wants impact from the book, so she's going to make darn sure that there's an outcome that comes from the book, irrespective of that, and all that money's going to go away, and she's got no back-end program because she's now a fully kept woman, and I'm proud of her. All right? So yeah, I'm not saying don't take a book down that path. I'm saying don't think that's how you get wealthy and create an economic legacy for that cause. In fact, you have a moral obligation to create wealth and then go fund that rather than do it the other way around. My opinion.
Yeah. That's it for questions right now.
Excellent. Oh, one just popped up. Can we select?
I was just going to type on this one. Should we not suggest select the book working backwards from the connecting cause? Because you kind of just referred to this, but feel free to address that if you want.
Yeah, well, so really, and Frank's going to get into this deep in the next hour on how to pick a high-ticket program, how to create a high-ticket program, high-margin, high-ticket program that is scalable. Really, you start there, Srinidhi. You would start there and work your way back in a perfect world.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you start with the outcome you know you can deliver, and then create a book that will serve that audience, and then pick a cause that will serve the book serving that outcome of the program. Okay?
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Perfect answer.
So let's jump in, because we missed some stuff in the next section, and I want to make sure we get time to do it. We're only going to talk about a couple things, and then we'll take, I promise you, a real break to the top of the hour, because you are going to want to be here for this last hour.
Oh, yeah.
High-ticket, high-margin programs that are scalable can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for you in the next 30, 60, 90 days. For every single person listening in right now, it can literally generate that sort of money. And I know some of you are going to be thinking, no, there's no possible way for me. Trust me, Frank has created a method that can absolutely positively do that. So you're going to want to pay attention in this last hour, which means you're going to want to get some water in and do a little bit of moving around. And we got to give you a break for that. So $1 million book launch, right? 5 steps to create a 7-figure revenue stream in 18 months or less, guaranteed. First, we write the book for you. Second, we create your high ticket program and you go out and validate it and sell the first $50,000. Then we build your entire strategic philanthropy book launch website. Everything we just covered, we do for you. It's a done for you service. Every single thing is done. We'll bounce off all the parts and pieces with you, of course, to get your input on it, but we'll do all of the work, get all of the platform created, up and running, and then we will drive traffic until you get 5,000 people in your tribe, 5,000 raving fans, and then we're going to coach you to close enough of these high ticket, high margin programs until you make $1 million included in that. And that'll happen inside of 18 months. Inside of 18 months, and we guarantee it, or you don't have to pay us the balance. That's simple. Right? So we talked about each of these parts. I'm going to skip past this, and I'm going to drill down on a couple of things we didn't get to last time. We talked about what you're responsible for, bringing your wisdom, validating, picking a cause, and then running the masterclass, selling those prospects that come from the masterclass, and delivering the high ticket program. Right? Fulfilling on it. You're responsible for fulfilling. We're responsible for everything else, including the editing, the publishing, the creating the program, recreating it if it doesn't work, the entire book launch strategy, and coaching and supporting you until you generate your first $1 million in sales. We figure after that, you can probably fly in your own, right? Once you've got the first $1 million in sales at the bank,
That's right.
You're pretty comfortable going on that. Now, that's not to say we might come up with a fun, separate level program for all of our $1 million graduates. Yeah. At that point is to hang around together, because we're going to leverage each other's wisdom. By the way, this isn't one-on-one coaching. This is group coaching and a mastermind. So it's not just the wisdom of Anita, Frank, and I you're going to tap into, but it's all the other authors and all of their experiences as well that you're going to tap into.
Yeah, and our coaching staff.
And the team of coaches that are going to support this all the way through. Investment, $100,000, $12,500 to get going. Remember, there's no fee to apply to see if you're a good fit. None whatsoever. And by the way, if you think this is possible, gosh almighty, invest the hour. Invest the hour to find out if it's a good fit. Right? We can help you figure out how to raise the 12.5 if you need to, but if you don't have that sitting around, but at least invest the hour to see if it's a good fit. And once you get going, we create all those parts and pieces. You make your first $50,000 before you pay us another dime. And then $250,000, you pay another $25,000, and then the $50,000 at the end. And we've created a way to gamify this, to make it fun, to make people engaged. But here's the thing. As a pilot program, we are so confident that we are going to finance not up to, 87.5%. I can promise you 3 months from now, we won't be financing 87.5%. Because if you look at the list of things that we're doing in the very first phase, it's going to be 25,000 down.
Look, I think that's a really important point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you just went and got a ghostwriter to write your book, you're already in 25K, okay? I mean,
if they're any good.
Right? All the way through. And that doesn't include the program, the back end, the sales, the generation. I mean, literally, you write a check for $25,000 and they hand you a book. Good luck. Like that's typically what you're in for. So for half of that, you get all of this and all of these guaranteed milestones that get you to what you really want, which is a thriving 7-figure business. Like, I mean, I know you all want to be authors, but trust me, you do not want a garage full of books where you can just go to cocktail parties and say, guess what, I'm an author. You want a thriving business that is generating cash flow for you.
Yeah. And remember, we triple guarantee it. So the first one is you don't make a second payment until you make $50,000, right? Very, very important. Why would we do that? Because in the pilot phase, we want to prove to you that we know what we're doing. We won't accept you unless we know we can crush it, but you don't know that. You won't even know that till you're in it, but we do. We do, because this is our business. This is what we do. And this is why Anita, Frank, and I are doing this together rather than separately, because the combination, super powerful. No more expenses on the book launch, the high ticket program creation, and the entire strategic philanthropy book launch website components. All of that. You don't pay anything out of pocket. You do pay out of pocket for your own fulfillment costs, of course, but not for that part of it. And then the $1 million guarantee. You don't get to $1 million, you don't pay that final $50,000. You just don't. In fact, you don't even pay the next payment until you get to $250,000. Remember, right? The $25,000 that's paid once you get to $250,000. So you've 10x your cash. That's very important to us. Now, let's talk about the bonuses, because this is really important. If you decide to apply within 24 hours, for those that are here live today, within 24 hours of now, or for those that watch the webinar rebroadcast, because we're recording this for that purpose, of course, within 24 hours of watching it the first time, if you apply and get accepted, you get 3 very powerful bonuses. You want to make this as absolutely scalable as possible for you. They're all about running a masterclass, screening and selling the prospects, and coaching the clients to get results from your program. So the first one is exactly what we talked about, running the masterclass. This format is 3 hours long. It's pretty simple. It's not complicated. You basically want to give someone your entire method. That's it. Right? As best you can inside 3 hours. It's a half-hour content, 15-minute Q&A, 15-minute offer, and then repeat that each hour. Okay? So it's not special in that sense. It's special in the sense of if you're giving real value, and I appreciate your comments of this is some of the best webinar masterclass I've ever been to, that's how we design it. We say, how can we provide maximum value? We'll teach you to do the same thing. I've created a 3-hour training program. It's a masterclass on how to do masterclasses. And so you'll take that, you'll go through that, and you'll get all the steps on what to do, including what are the pre-event sequence emails to send, what are the post-event sequence emails to send when you automate down the road, what are all the things involved. But here's the cool part. You're either into this or not into it, your prospects, or either be into it or not into it by the time you're done the 3 hours. Like, that's a reality. They'll either be into it or not into it. Yeah. And for those of you watching along and learning all this great content, you'll either like, yes, I totally want to do this. Gosh, I think so. I have no idea. Or no. It doesn't take fancy sales scripts to handle those 3 people, right? In the first 2 categories, sign up for the strategy session. We'll see if it's a good fit. It's free.
Right.
And if you're in the last category, no problem. Like, it's go with it, run with it, apply it. It's not a complicated format. However, there are a lot of little parts and pieces that I learned doing this over the last 1.5 years that have proven to be, what's the tactful way to say this, Frank? Very lucrative. All right.
Yeah, that's tactful.
Very lucrative. Now, next up, Frank, I want you to talk about this one because this is really, really important for people selling their high-ticket offers.
Yeah. Yeah, look, obviously, in order for you to earn $1 million, you're going to have to put $1 million worth of people into your back-end programs. And that means that, so we're talking about the masterclass. Obviously, there's a second part of this, which is the strategy session and then actually closing those sales. If you're like most entrepreneurs who aren't professional salespeople, the idea of selling a $25,000, $50,000, even $100,000 offer might freak you out. You might think there's no possible way I could do that. And so we just want to make sure, number one, that in the program, we're going to back you up, and we're going to back you up in a number of different ways. This bonus is going to be the first part of that. You're going to be able to go through the process where we literally hand you the script. Here's the script for how to run a strategy session for a high ticket offer. Here's exactly how you get people to that strategy session. Here is how you handle the objections that are going to come during that time. And here's what happens if they say no, because some people are going to say no, and you need to understand, like, was it something I did? Was it just actually, did I dodge a bullet? And we give you the way for you to figure out whether that was a good no or a learning no. And so this is really critically important. So in the program itself, we're going to give you coaching and we're going to give you support to be able to help you with those sales. But this bonus actually gives you the training up front that you need to do this as well.
Yeah, I want to distinguish that. So this will be the training separate from everyone, whether you apply in the next 24 hours or not. Everyone gets the coaching and support. Everyone gets that. And this is part of a very high-end ticket, high-margin program that Frank sells, right? Yeah. We've asked him to contribute this part of that program so that every one of you can crush it. Right. And then the last part is you are going to be likely coaching and masterminding with your clients. Frank's going to cover the 5 key components in the next hour, so I won't get into them right now, of a high-ticket, high-margin, scalable program. Frank will cover that, but you will likely have group coaching or a mastermind or both. And my experience is most people suck at this, especially running a great mastermind, especially if they're a good coach, because they want to hear their own voice. They want to hear their own voice too much. And a great mastermind is not about you or your voice. It's about tapping the collective wisdom of the room. So it's a very different skill set. On the other hand, you may be really good at facilitating and therefore be great at running masterminds, but terrible at group coaching. So we want to give you the skills to do both really well. And we'll do that. It's an online training program. We valued it at $19.97, but it's actually the heart of our $25,000 Get It Together Mastermind License Program. It's the heart of that. And so, it's extremely helpful to you so that you can hit the ground running it like a pro. So those are the 3 bonuses that are included in that. And then the other thing I wanted to spend a bit of time on is, what if your cash flow sucks?
Yeah.
Right? I know Frank believes this as well, same with Anita. You should never let lack of cash flow today stop you from producing the cash flow you desire tomorrow. So if that's the only thing stopping you from applying, right, then apply. Because we will show you how you can go out and raise the money or pre-sell a high-ticket program. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. We'll show you how to do that. We're going to run a separate training session for anyone that applies that's interested in this. You'll actually see in the application, would you like information from Tom on how to do this? Just say yes, and we'll send you the details when it happens. We'll record it, so if you can't make it live, you can get access to it. And we'll show you exactly how to finance this. That is, do not let your lack of cash flow today stop you from crushing this. That's why we spread this out. We're not saying give us $100,000. We're saying put a small piece up front to show us that you're serious. Now, $12,500 may not be a small piece to you right now. That may be a large piece. Great, We'll show you how to raise that. Frank, anything you want to add to this? Because I know this is important to you too.
Yeah, look, there's too much holding yourself back. Like starting a business, being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of obstacles you need to tackle. Do not let yourself be one of them. And this is truly all about yourself getting in the way. I don't want to sound, like overly, crazy about this, but cash flow is a solvable problem. Okay. So if that's the thing, if you're saying, oh my gosh, in fact, I've seen a couple of comments already in Q&A and in the chat box where I would love to do this. I just don't have the money. Let us show you how to fix that problem. Okay. Because it's just a fixable problem. It's not a barrier. It is not a wall you can't get over. It's a fixable problem. So literally, if you're all in, but you just don't know how to figure this out, let us help you figure that out.
Frank's going to put the link in. We're going to take a break now to give everyone a chance to recharge their fluids or get rid of some, as the case may be. And also, I encourage you, if you've been sitting the entire time, to get up, move around, get your body moving a little bit, because the next hour is so important to your financial success in the next year. I'm telling you, whether or not you decide to apply, and we hope you do. If you think it's a good fit, if you know it's a good fit, we absolutely hope you sign up for a strategy session. and let's talk. But if you don't, either way, you want to create a high ticket, high margin program, one that is scalable. You want to be able to monetize your tribe. The number one reason businesses fail is they don't. So we're going to start at the top of the hour. That gives us 7 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm going to pause the recording and we will see you then. And we are back live. I started it a little bit early just in case there's any pressing questions that have come up that anyone has. Just pop them in the Q&A section. And we're going to get started right away. Nothing right now. Oh, there's one that jumped in there. Okay, let's have a look-see. Evelyn says, Frank, wasn't clear what Tom answers. Is the book sold separately to the raving fans who donate, or is the book part of the offer? Good question, Evelyn. Our suggestion, our best practice is your 8 to 10 offers in the launch. Half of all the gross money goes to the cause and half goes to the author. You're not just selling the book. You're selling experiences, little and big, around the book. So the author would make half of the money. And, so if you do it, you'd make half the money and your cause would make half the money. That way it's strategic philanthropy. It's not all to the cause. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense for you. Okay. Mr. Frank.
Yeah.
We got some amazing, important stuff to cover, and I know you need all of the time for it.
Yeah. Something like that. Well, yeah, we got a lot to cover because we're going to be talking about what it takes to put a high-ticket, high-margin program together. Because this is the whole point. If you want 7 figures out of a book launch, you're not getting it from the book. You're not getting it from a Kickstarter-like campaign. You're not getting it from any of that. You're getting it from what your excited tribe decides to do to work with you. That's how you monetize. So we're going to get into that. We're going to kick that off right now, okay? All right, so here's what happens. You get your client. Woohoo! Like, it's exciting, right? You get the client. You're totally thrilled. And then what happens? What happens is that now you're up, you got to deliver. You're up late. You're on the phone all the time. You're doing one-on-one coaching. You're traveling. You're doing all that stuff, okay? And it's completely exhausting, but that's actually not even the worst of it. The worst of it is that your cash flow is at zero. You're essentially broke. And you think to yourself, how in the world could I have pulled that off? How did I go broke? I just landed this client, okay? What you really want, though, is you want leftover money at the end. After you deal with the client, after you work with the client and they get their great outcome for you, you want leftovers, okay? Now, it's not really about the money. Look, if you're anything like me and Tom, it's not about the money. It's about the freedom that the entrepreneurship creates. And I wanted to give you the process on how to get that freedom, and it is called High Ticket Program. That is the secret. That's the combination to unlock a freedom in your life. Let me tell you what a high-ticket program consists of, okay? First, you need to solve a 6-figure problem, okay? Next, you need to have a proprietary process by which you deliver the solution, and then that solution needs to be scalable, okay? Let me tell you why. So what happens if you just don't have a scalable solution? Well, what that means is that every single time you do the work, you're going to have to work for every single dollar that you earn, okay? Now, what if instead of just not having a scalable solution, you actually don't have any kind of proprietary process, okay? Then you're just like everybody else. Essentially, you are like everyone else. And if you don't solve a 6-figure problem, well, then essentially you're not of any value. Your clients are going to say, I don't see why I should pay you at all, okay? Look, there are 2 business models. I basically want to tell you this. There are 2 business models that you could take forward. One, you offer a low price service and you build it up later. Or the second, you offer a high price service, and as you start to get more and more clients, you expand that down. Let's talk about each of those 2 business models and how they work, okay? Let's take a look at that low price startup and what you build it up. All right, so first of all, it's easy to get that first sale, so quote unquote easy, but then you have to quickly build a massive audience because you can't live on a couple $100 or even a couple thousand. And you have to invest in automation quickly in order to make that work, which basically leaves you cash poor, okay? No money coming in, lots of money going out. And the other thing is that low price you're charging, that literally means you're not having any value or impact on your client, okay? Small value, small impact. Let's take a look at the other way of doing this. High-priced Start up, expand down later. That means at the very beginning, you don't have any immediate need to build an audience. You can do it with just a few clients, and you're going to generate cash and high impact testimonials. Okay. Oh, you get to wait until that value proposition is crystal clear and then scale when you have cash in your pocket and authority in place. Okay. Let's actually do the math on this. I'll show you what it looks like. In a low price model, let's say you do that whole post book tripwire thing where you sell a $500 information product on the back end of your book. In order to earn just say 30 grand over the next 90 days, you would need to literally have 60 new clients. That means that you're going to have to bring in 20 a month, okay? And that's one client every single business day. If you close 1 out of 3, you're going to have 3 sales conversations every business day, all right? In the high ticket model, let's say you go out with a $10,000 offer, okay? In order to earn that $30,000 over the next 90 days, you have to have 3 clients. That's 1 a month, okay? And if you close 1 out of every 3, you only have to have 3 conversations a month. That's less than 1 a week. Now, which one of those 2 models would you like to be involved in? Now, sometimes if you are, having this argument about whether or not something's high ticket or low ticket, it really comes down to having a poor understanding of what it is that you're selling. Your client and you both having a poor understanding. Because actually, in the end, all you're doing is you're trading time for money. And when that's all you have to offer, then your client doesn't understand the value of what it is that you're doing. You need to be able to express what you do in terms of the investment in themselves and in their business, which means you need to learn the language of the ROI, return on investment. So I want to teach you what that looks like, because if you can solve a 6-figure problem for someone, then you're aiming for a huge return on that investment. I mean, let's take a look at the numbers. If you're creating a 6 figures of value, $100,000 of value, you ought to be able to charge $10,000 for that. If you are creating $1 million of value, you ought to be able to charge $100,000 for that. Okay? That's a 10 to 20x return on investment. In order to establish that investment, we need to understand the 4 reasons that people buy anything from you at all. Okay? 1, they do it to make money, save money, stay out of jail, or have a better life. Okay, that's it. Those are the only 4 reasons why anybody buys anything. Now, you may think it's because you're smart or because you've got this great thing you're doing.
Good looking. Don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly. You're good looking. And maybe working with you makes them have a better life. I don't know. But it really just comes down to these 4 things, okay? So we need to understand that. And when you get into a sales conversation, you're going to be asked the big question, which is, why should I pick you? Okay. And if your answer is, well, just trust me, I can get you there, that's not good enough. Because in fact, you need to be seen as the expert. Okay. You need to be seen as the person literally standing up in front of the room, telling people what to do. And when you're the expert, what happens is that people line up to join your program. And that's what you want. So think about what it is that you may follow on a regular basis. I was thinking of an example of this, and it's really my GPS unit, okay? My GPS tells me to turn left, I turn left. Tells me to turn right, I turn right. And I even do it if I think I should be turning left, all right? The reason is because it has for you the turn-by-turn directions that take you from where you are to where you want to go. And even if I'm not sure that that's really where I should be going, I see the red line that takes me exactly where I want to go. You need to provide that for your clients as well. And the way to do that is by providing a proprietary process, all right? We kind of talked about this earlier as part of your book. Your job as a service provider is to create order from chaos, okay? It is pure chaos, the world that your prospect and your client lives in, and you need to be able to order it in a way that makes it clear, okay? The way to do that is to create 3 to 5 simple stages. Now, if you've written a book with 5 stages, ta-da, there are your stages, right? And this is the great thing about having a process that backs up the book. Now, your stages need to be able to be created in this format. Now, this is essentially the Merlin format that we just talked about. You have to start with the finish line, and you're backing up to where it begins at the starting point. To test, to make sure you've got it figured out, you need to run it the other way. Now, if you've ever been in a position where you feel like you're dragging your client along and they don't want to come with you to the next stage, you'll know what we're going to talk about next is a really critical point, because what you want instead is for your client to be leading the way. You want your client to be dragging you along rather than the other way around, okay? Because when you do that, you establish essentially victory for your client, and that's what they need. They need a finish line. And what do you get when you get a finish line? When you cross the finish line, you get a prize, right? So I want you to use that framework when you design your stages. Every stage needs to have both of these things, a finish line and a prize. So how do you build that? First, you need to know what each stage of your program actually involves. During stage 2, we're going to do this, okay? How do you know when you're done? That's the finish line, okay? I need to be able to say, you will be finished when stage 2 when you have accomplished this. And then, of course, what you get out of it, that's the prize. Your client isn't going to do the work if they don't know what's in it for them, okay? You need to establish a prize. So, for example, what a lot of people do is marketing consultants will say, for example, well, at the beginning, we're going to create a client avatar. Well, okay, that sounds great, but as your client, I don't understand why I want to do that work. You need to relay it as a prize. In other words, at the end of stage 1, you'll have a client avatar, but the prize is that you will know immediately how to recognize an ideal prospect in every single conversation you have. Now, that's a prize. That's something I care about, okay? Let me tell you a quick story. I heard this story for the first time from Taki Moore, so I'll give him some credit on this. But it was a village that didn't have a lot of water. You had to go up into the mountains to get water, and a great entrepreneur decided, I am going to basically take a wheelbarrow and a bucket, and I'm going to go up into the mountain and get water for people and sell it to them. And the people in the village loved it. This is so awesome. It was so popular that the person was now going up into the mountain 5 times and 6 times and 8 times a day in order to bring more and more water back. And then it was like, oh, now I got to find people to go up because I can't go up as many times into the mountain to get the water. Now, another entrepreneur did something different than that, okay? They decided what they were going to do was actually build a canal from the mountain to the town. It was a big value, recurring revenue. We're able to solve a big problem and sold the water to the town instead of to each individual. And so instead of having to go up into the mountain over and over and over again, they simply were able to monetize the work. And every single time the water flowed into the town, they got paid. They didn't have to go up into the mountain. Now, I don't know about you, but I know which one of those 2 entrepreneurs I'd rather be, okay? And if you want to be the canal builder, then you need to create what's called a scalable solution. Now, this all comes down to answering the question, how do I deliver a high-ticket program without reverting to project-based work or one-on-one coaching, okay? And it really comes down to understanding the building blocks of a scalable program. So what are they, okay? There are 5. There are only 5. Once you know these 5, you can use them like Legos to put together your own high-ticket scalable program. The first one you're familiar with, it's called virtual training. This is essentially online learning programs that you've probably seen in a lot of different areas. The second building block is what's called a mastermind group. Now, I want to be clear what a mastermind is and is not, okay? I'm not talking about, when an author comes out with a book and says, I think I'll start a mastermind. That's not a mastermind, okay? A mastermind is a group of people who come together with a very specific objective in mind in order to get things accomplished. Like maybe they're trying to grow their business. Maybe they're trying to get goals done. Maybe they're trying to grow their career. Whatever it is, they are together for that one goal, and they lead themselves. So your job in that mastermind is not to be guru, but instead to be the facilitator. The participants lead themselves through that process. If you want to be the guru, then you need to go to number 3. And number 3 is group coaching. This is where you get a group of people together and you are the expert. You are the guru who then is able to coach a group of people to get the results that they want. Now, the 4th building block that I want to talk about is a done-for-you service. Now, you might say, Frank, done for you, that doesn't sound very scalable. Well, done for you is not the same as custom project work. Done for you means there's a very specific thing that you do for a client that is almost like a manufactured process. We do it over and over and over again. They're all the same. We don't make custom adjustments. We don't do things differently. it is the process I follow every single time. I can hire, train people, get them working. That is scalable. If you're doing custom projects and every client's different and everyone's got different things and you have to like bolt on these different parts of the service for people, well, that's not scalable at all. But that's not what I'm talking about here. And then finally, the last building block is what we call live events and workshops. And this is a great way for you to, in front of a lot of people, be your genius in person. They're very scalable because you're working with a whole group all at once, and they have unique characteristics that make them very, very powerful ways of delivering your genius to your audience. Okay, but that's it. Those are fundamentally the 5 building blocks here. Now, before we jump into Q&A, I want to give you a couple of examples of this so that you get a little bit of a sense of what this might look like. But when it comes time for Q&A, what I want you to start thinking about now is I want you to be thinking about what your high-ticket scalable program would be for your own audience. So go ahead and start putting in the chat box or in the Q&A box, first of all, what audience do you serve and what's the outcome? And if you think you've got ideas about what that high-ticket program might look like, scalable and high margin, then go ahead and put that in as well. But I'd like to coach a few of you through the development of your own high-ticket program today so that you get a sense of what something like this might look like.
You mean you want to help them right now get some profit going in their business? Frank?
Absolutely. Like let's have you like get out right now and start making some money, right? So that's the question I want you to start asking to yourself. Put it in the Q&A box when you get a chance. What audience do you serve and what big outcome do you create? Okay. Now, well, one example of this, okay, and a really kind of obvious example is helping people build businesses. This is what I do. This is what Tom does. If you're trying to help someone build a 6-figure, 7-figure business, Tom and I help people build 7-figure businesses. You are clearly solving a 6- and 7-figure problem, right? That's a big, big outcome. Okay, so how do we go about doing that, right? First, we identify the steps required to build a 7-figure business, okay? And really, it's pretty straightforward, okay? You have to create and validate a business. You have to get it up and running to its first 6 figures. That's a very different set of tasks. And then you have to scale it up to $1 million business, another very different set of tasks. So we would break that into 3 stages. Finish lines and prizes associated with each. Now, the nice thing about building a business is that the prizes are pretty obvious. They're the cash that comes in from the business. I can't think of a better prize than someone handing me a check for $1 million, right? So when you build that together, what you have to think about is putting the building blocks in place that help your clients get the outcome they need, okay? So think very carefully about, all right, in order for my prospect, my client, to make their first $100,000, what do they need? Well, they're going to need a program. They're going to need some clients. They're going to need how to sell. And they probably are going to need to do that in an inexpensive way because they don't have tons of cash to buy lots of expensive funnels and ads, right? Okay, great. So I am going to teach them how to build and validate a program on their own, have sales conversations with individuals in order to generate that first $100,000. How can I do that? Well, it sounds like masterminding, group coaching, and virtual training are the way to go. Virtual training provides the skills. Masterminding provides the accountability. It's the get stuff done, okay? And if you are trying to get essentially mentorship, in getting to that 100,000, that's what group coaching is for, okay? So we pick the delivery methods in a way that ensures our client gets the outcome that they want, okay? All right, so in the Q&A box, go ahead and put in, who you work with and what outcome you want to create, and we'll actually talk through that. And like Tom said in the chat box, if you're just stuck, just say so, and we'll interact with you live and try to get you unstuck. Okay.
So we got the first one, Frank. Katie Karlovitz says, "I coach people who have to go on stage, network, and present, i.e., professionals and entrepreneurs, to gain confidence."
Yeah. Okay. So, Katie, I'm going to say that your client's end goal here is not confidence and poise. Okay, your client's end goal. So your clients want confidence and poise, but they want confidence and poise for a particular reason. Okay, they want confidence and poise to gain more clients, or to gain speaking engagements, or to get a career, move their career forward, right? Confidence and poise is a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. So I want you to think about what that end state is that your clients really, really want. What's the thing? Again, think about what keeps them up at night, right? Katie, your clients are not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, if I could just have poise, right? That is the thing that gets them to what they really, really, really want. Not to quote the Spice, what is it? The Spice Girls? Is that what their name is? What? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Okay.
I'm impressed. Nice pop culture reference. Your teenage girls will be happy for you.
I know, that's right. I have teenage girls, so what do you want? But okay, so figure that part out. But let's assume for a second that you want your clients to be able to go on stage, network, and present with confidence and poise in order to gain clients. Okay, so you have all of your stuff up front that you need to teach them about gaining confidence and poise, but you need to support them in the leveraging of that confidence and poise to get them what they really want. And what they really want is a 6 and 7 figure problem. Okay, so if you just teach them confidence and poise, you might be able to charge $4,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever dollars for that. But if you can help them connect the dots to the real thing they want at the end, right? A C-level job, a 6-figure business, clients, that more clients, more leads for their corporate job, whatever it is that they want in the end. That's the thing where if you can connect those dots, you'll really help them get to the end. Now, one thing, Katie, you might be thinking is, oh my gosh, but I don't do that. Like, I don't know how to do that. But that's where you partner up with the people who do, put it all together into one big part, right? And then that is what your high ticket program becomes in the end. So.
Yeah, and Katie answered on that is part of what she talks to them about now. But I think it's really good advice, because most people are promoting a service that leads to the outcome that isn't the outcome itself.
Right.
And so the more you can take Frank's advice on this, the better your high ticket program will be, the better your marketing will be too. So for example, when we were building and scaling our mastermind brand, nobody wants to join a mastermind, was the lesson we learned after investing about $1 million. Nobody wants to join a mastermind. There's about 3 or 4% of the world that understand the power of masterminds. They're already in them.
Yep.
And there's everyone else who doesn't understand what they're for. But everybody wants to, as we found out, permanently eliminate inconsistent cash flow.
Yeah.
So we were focusing on selling a mastermind, struggle. We shifted to focusing on permanently eliminating inconsistent cash flow, and we created a game changer. So they were all about the same process, the same outcome, but the difference was one was focused on exactly that. So hopefully that makes sense to you listening in. Next up, Frank, Express Accounting asked, bookkeeping services is what this person's involved with. Thus, one-on-one, not scalable.
Right.
Looking for a service that would suit small business, numerous problem solutions.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So bookkeeping isn't a scalable service because it is one-on-one, but people with bookkeeping skills are able to solve other kinds of things for businesses. For example, I know a lot of bookkeeping services that have basically created money coaching for entrepreneurs that help them figure out better ways to budget, spend money, allocate, and grow their businesses, right? So that is an absolutely scalable service, and it's a 6-figure service, right? Keeping track of invoices, getting paid on time, those are important things. But the 6-figure problems that your small business owner really, really cares about are going to be wrapped up in the growth and the profitability, right? So again, money coaching, profitability coaching, having some kind of a program that helps entrepreneurs gain profitability, gain gain margin, gain efficiency. Those are the kinds of things where you're definitely going to have a much better infrastructure to become scalable. I don't know if you've got anything else to add on that, Tom, but.
No, that's it. I mean, it is not scalable as a bookkeeper. It's massively scalable if you're helping them make more profit.
Yep.
And now there are different ways you can do that. Obviously, if you're good at bookkeeping, you can cut costs, you can save, you can scale, you can add more sales, you can do whatever. But nobody wants their books done. It's like masterminds. Nobody wants their books done.
Right.
They don't. They want the power that comes from it. So, and you're not going to get a high ticket item unless you're auditing financials. But even that, and I've done that with my franchise companies. I've been involved in auditing financials, and even there, you didn't want the audited financials. You wanted to be compliant so you could sell your franchise.
Yeah.
Or you wanted to be compliant with your quarterly filings so you could be, still publicly traded. Those are the two reasons we did audited financials, to maintain our publicly traded status and to maintain our status so we could legally franchise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We didn't want financials. Trust me, we did not want to spend, a six-figure amount of money on financials, but we did want what it brought us.
Yeah, and another really good example about this that helps people focus on that outcome that people really want. One of my clients is a cybersecurity firm, okay? And he works with businesses in Washington, D.C., medium-sized businesses, and helps them make sure they don't get hacked and that their email stuff is working the right way. When he would go out to people and say, I'm a cybersecurity firm that helps you not get hacked, I mean, that seems like a really reasonable thing to say, right? They would say, oh, yeah, we get that. We don't have any problems right now. We'll call you when there's a problem. And he would say, yeah, but it's a worse problem after that all happens. And they go, yeah, we get it, right? It's kind of like buying insurance, right? It's really hard to sell that in advance risk unless you've experienced the risk. Well, what he discovered was that these same companies, if they don't put their IT house in order, will no longer be able to have government contracts in Washington, D.C. after 2018. And so what he did is he changed his pitch. Instead of talking about cybersecurity, he went to the companies. He said, when they asked him, what do you do? He said, I keep you in business after 2018. Well, guess what? They talked to him then. And they definitely said, that is that's the way forward in this conversation that doesn't get bogged down into, did you get hacked? Did you not get hacked? Like, all of that stuff is just not useful. So.
Great. Next question. Ursula asked, how does this apply to holistic health and spiritual development?
Oh, yeah, that's an awesome question. This falls into that camp of better life, right? If you've got holistic health and spiritual development, you want a better life. And so a lot of people think, well, I can't monetize that. Like, that's not a six-figure problem. Well, it can be. It absolutely can be. You just have to make it one. And that's a combination of two very important things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, you need to find an outcome which is, in fact, life-changing for the audience that you're talking about. And if you think life-changing is dramatic or over the top, then you should not be an entrepreneur, okay? If you are in business, you should be in business to change your clients' lives. That's what I'm in business for. I know that's what Tom's in business for, okay? Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is then when you figure that piece out, okay, you then need to find an audience for whom that outcome is important. I'll give you an example, okay? So one of my clients, her name's Dr. Penny. We always call her Dr. Penny. She's a great lady. I love to chat with Dr. Penny. She is a holistic health expert who focuses on gastrointestinal issues for women who are dealing with like IBS, right? So, the stuff no one likes to talk about, going to the bathroom, but that's what she likes to talk about. Like, how do you actually have that process work better? When she first started out, she was doing this one-on-one sessions with people and saying, well, I'm going to, speak with you at maybe, $50 an hour, $75 an hour, and we'll come up with a plan, and you'll go execute that plan, and et cetera, right? Well, she had a lot of trouble with that. Number one, it was a low-ticket offer. It was really tough to get cash flow. She'd get crazy questions like, do you take insurance? I mean, no one wants that question. That's a horrible place to get stuck as an entrepreneur. And so when we worked with Dr. Penny, we recognized that, listen, you need to figure out how to leverage that skill set and solve your problem in a way that is really massive and meaningful, okay? So she found a niche of entrepreneurial women whose businesses are affected by their health. In other words, their gastrointestinal issues are killing 5 to, in some cases, 20 hours a week out of their business. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, 5 to 20 hours a week is clearly a 6-figure problem. And so she was able to then put a program together that not only helped them get those 5 to 20 hours back because they're feeling better, but then actually leverage those 5 to 20 hours in a mastermind with those other entrepreneurs so that they could make money from the found time. Now, that does 2 things. Number one, she went from $75 an hour to a $25,000 program, okay? The second thing is she is the only person who is helping people get through IBS and make $100,000 at it, okay? That unique combination of the holistic health and the money making was really impressive. I'll give you another example. Another one of my clients, her name is Chandra. She has a program called Root to Rise where she helps people basically rebuild their life after a devastating loss. And when she was working with people who might have lost a spouse or have lost, gone through a divorce or whatever it is, that is a huge loss, she would find that she was competing with people who basically are saying, oh, well, look, I could either take your program or I can go to this like three-day weekend retreat for $397. Okay. So basically she's like, great, I'm competing with these $400 program, weekend retreats that really aren't going to get you where you want to go. Right. So she created a program. She found a unique solution. This is, again, entrepreneurial men who have gone through a devastating loss of a spouse, of a loved one, of their marriage, and it is now they need to rebuild their lives, and it's affecting their income. It's affecting their overall life. Now, she's able to put a program together just for them, and when they say, well, what about this 3-day weekend for $300? She can say, I'm going to be working with you for the next 12 months to put your life back together and to leverage the work that you need to do in order to rebuild your financial life as well as your spiritual and emotional one. And one last example, Tom, that just came to mind is Julia. So Julia Mueller is actually one of our clients. Tom and I have together. She is a hypnotherapist. Okay, and she is a licensed hypnotherapist and trained as a master trainer who can certify other people in hypnotherapy. And so she was originally thinking, well, I could build a hypnotherapy business, or I can take all of what I've done in building my existing hypnotherapy practice and teach other people how to do that. And so Julia has just opened a school, literally a school for hypnotherapists. So anyone who is like a life coach or does spiritual healing or is really into the, helping people have a better life, that wants a more clinical level to the work that they can do, she now will take them through the training program and help them become a certified hypnotherapist. But she doesn't stop there, because it's not good enough to just be a certified hypnotherapist. You need to be a certified hypnotherapist with a thriving practice of 6-figure clients, of 6 figures worth of business, right? And so she not only teaches you how to be a hypnotherapist, she teaches you the business of hypnotherapy and coaches you through the process of getting your very first leads and scaling up to a 6-figure hypnotherapy business. Does that help? Does that help? All of that work is happening. With Julia, that's some of the work that we help her with as well. But we help people put these kinds of programs together. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to start with this, but I know that it's in me, and I know that a book will help me get my genius out to the world, That's what the $1 Million Book Launch Program is all about. It is not just putting your book together. It is literally about putting your genius in the world in a way that monetizes you and creates you as a $1 million authority.
That was great. And so if you have something that you think it doesn't fit, we've got a few more minutes we can answer and help you with that. If you don't think there's a direct fit, drop it in the Q&A box, describe what it is that you do, and let's see what Frank and I can do to help you with that. This is so powerful and so much leverage out there. Now, on the other hand, if you know that it fits and you just need help figuring it out, that's the other thing to keep in mind. Frank mentioned this quickly earlier, but you don't have to have all of the solution yourself. What you have to do is figure out what are all the parts to the solution, and then go out and partner with or recruit or hire or joint venture the people that can help with all those parts. Right?
Tom, can I just say there, just as you said earlier about don't let cash flow stop you from coming forward, I'd also add in there, don't let your lack of confidence about knowing how to also stop you having that discussion, because a lot of people do hide behind that as well.
Yeah, really good point, Anita. And in fact, I would say, like last time I saw stats, 83% of business people said they had a book inside them, but obviously less than 20% have ever written a book. Yeah. So, the how to do it, most of us know how to write, like, how to do it the old fashioned way, not the way I taught in the first hour, but how to do it the old fashioned way. We all know how to do that one way or another. So it's not the mechanical ability to write that stopped it. Many times it's our belief. Right? It's our belief that gets in the way. Oh, I don't know if we're worthy of doing that. I don't know if I should be doing that. Frank, what would you say to someone that's good at what they do, but don't think they're world class yet?
Yeah. So first of all, you talk with someone, get an outside perspective on that, first of all, right? Because oftentimes we're our own worst enemy and we think I'm not ready, I'm not there yet, etc. Okay. So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing is that oftentimes we think we're not world-class or an expert in it because we're still too vague. Once you create your own proprietary process and you know exactly how to execute those steps, guess what? You're now the world's authority in that process, okay? So a lot of times this really comes down to making sure that you've got a very specific process in mind to be able to get your clients the outcome that they want. And you know what? We all have to start somewhere. So get started on that process, design it out, have it clear in your head, and then you'll be able to take it to the next level by getting those great testimonials from those first pilot clients, have them in your back pocket, and scale with all that great building authority in place. But don't let fear hold you back.
We've got a whole bunch of options that are questions that have just come up, but I'm going to jump the queue and go to Luke from Corsica. He was our first person to log in. He's up late in France tonight, the way across the pond, and he said, "What if I'm no genius? I have no genius. I'm broke, but still want to build a 7-figure business."
Oh, I love it. Bonsoir, Luke. All right, so. First of all, no one. It is rare that anyone is a genius on their own. Okay, it is the combination of working with others, honing ideas, and testing those ideas against the real life efforts of helping people that you need to actually kind of push you to that next level. Okay. So I would challenge the "I'm no genius, have no genius" part. Let's find out that everyone's got skill sets they can offer. And sometimes it is all about wrapping it up in that proprietary process. And then that's where the genius lies. Okay. Oftentimes the genius comes out of that process. About the broke part, I think Tom's addressed that really well. Don't let that stand in your way. You need to be able to move it forward. Okay. You need to be able to have the confidence to go to that circle of influence to raise the money you need to make things happen. That's what CEOs do. That's what CEOs do in every single company that I've ever been a part of or consulted for. And that's your job as the CEO of your own company. And the great news is we will help you with that. We will help you with that. Tom, you want to talk anything more about that?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a more formal process answer to that, Luke, because I spent most of my life helping people start the business of their dreams when they were employed, frustrated, broke, fed up, you name it. And you remember the 3 overlapping circles from Frank's model? Well, I've developed a similar one for figuring out the answer to your question, Luke. Yeah. So for those of you, this isn't on the slides. So you're going to, well, you know what? Can we do the drawing board? I can do my high-tech drawing board.
Ooh, high-tech drawing board. That's cool.
High-tech drawing board. Stop share.
Let's do it.
Let's see here. I got to go out of this. I got to go into here, and I got to go share whiteboard. Ooh, let's see. I might mess up our beautiful drawing here now. Do you see the whiteboard?
Yeah. Yep, we see it.
You see it? Okay. Yep. So circle number 1. Woo. Circle number 2.
Your circles are as good as my triangles.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I worked hard at this. Circle number 3. So over in this one, it is skills. Skills. What you want to identify all the things you are awesome at in terms of their skills that you would identify as a skill. The next area you want to identify all the things you are passionate about, the things you love to do. You absolutely love to do. Man, oh man, if I could get paid to play bridge, oh man, I'd love that. All right, whatever it is. And then the third area that you want to focus on is the marketplace. And it's the overlapping area in between, right in here. This is what you want. You want the overlapping area in between, right in here. I'm going to draw it in. Let me actually do some squigglies here. I'm going to change color, go really high tech, and fill this in. You want to find the combination of the things you're awesome at, the things you love, and the marketplace. So you start this process by identifying every skill you have, everything anyone's ever told you you're good at. Now, for some of us, that's a short list. That's okay. It doesn't matter whether it's a short or a long list. Just make the list. And then the other thing is all the things you absolutely love to do. And then the first thing you do is you actually start in here and you look for the overlap between the two. Look for the overlap between the two. Then you get out and do some research in the marketplace. And you find out where is their market potential in that overlap. Okay? So that's the process without hiring Frank and Tom and Anita to do that. That's what you do. You go through exactly that process and do that. Obviously, with the $1 Million Book launch, we figure it out for you. We figure it out for you. Now, you need to have authority, so you need to have a direction or this won't work. We're not going to get you $1 million sales in 18 months if you're completely blind and you have no direction. That's not what we can do for you here. What I would suggest you do is listen to the masterclass over and over, take some good notes, and go off on your own until you have some direction. But if you think you can get that direction, or if you think you have that direction, we can definitely help you polish it. Like our bookkeeping friend on this call here that's got some focus but doesn't know where to apply it, we can absolutely apply that. Right? So that's really, really important. Let's have a quick look. Hopefully that helped, Luke. Let's have some quick look at some of the other questions. Then we're going to switch over. We got about 3 more minutes for questions. Frank, any ones you want to tackle? You see there?
Yeah. So Evelyn, helping people find and follow their life purpose. So actually, Evelyn, this is a really good one. I get a lot of clients who hire me start off with this. I'm helping people get fulfilled, be happy, etc. Not good enough. And you've already you've already seen that. Like, I can help people at $300 a session, but it's this one-on-one thing, right? The way to do that, the way to formalize it, scale it, is to focus on, again, what is the point? I want all of you to start asking why. Why find the life purpose? Why? What will that help you do? And when I've done that with my clients who have this as one of their areas, a lot of times it's because there's some project or life purpose or thing that people want to get done. Okay. So I had one client who came and said, I want people to have a fulfilled life and to find their purpose. And she transformed that into, I want people to identify their life's passion project and then execute on it. Okay. So by wrapping it all together, we've created a six-figure problem. And she validated that by asking people, if you could find your life's passion project and then actually be involved in it, successfully executing it, would that be worth $10,000 to you? And people said, absolutely yes. If you could help me find that meaningful thing in my life and actually help me get it done and not daydream about it, that's big. Okay. So that's an example, I think, for Evelyn there. Leonard's got.
I'm going to do Leonard's at the end.
Okay.
Once we wrap up, I just sent a message to Leonard because I think it would drill down and we might lose a few people in the process.
Okay, great.
But at the same token, I want to make sure that we one more time, and I appreciate all your enthusiasm and passion, everyone. You've done awesome. We actually have as many people on now as when we started, which is one of the keys about a masterclass that continually, absolutely, I love, is that if you provide real value, people stick around.
Yeah.
And people will tell you, by the way, oh, you can't do a 3-hour masterclass. Nobody has time. Nobody has time. And you're right. Nobody has time. We're all busy. But if you provide value, people want to stick around. And so in the last few minutes, we want to give you one more opportunity to consider applying. Some of you already done so, which is awesome. But for those of you that are thinking about this, but are kind of like on the fence about whether you want to apply or not, remember, it doesn't cost a thing to apply. It's an hour of your time. And we'll take a look and see if we can absolutely crush it for you. But if you're on the fence, maybe put in the chat box why you're on the fence. Would love to hear, or that you're on the fence. Just put in on the fence, on the fence, on the fence. If you're thinking about applying, but you're not there yet. Would love to hear from that scenario so we can tackle that and maybe address some of the concerns that someone has. The way we've set this thing up, we want this to be as highly leveraged as possible so that we take the brilliance out of your mind, turn it into a book, turn that book into a high-ticket program. Once that's designed, create the master class to support it. But meanwhile, you're going to go out and you're going to validate. You're going to start selling it right away. Before your book is even published, you're going to monetize that high-ticket program. You're going to turn that into at least $50,000 in sales as you go through that process. And then we're going to create the entire Strategic Philanthropy book launch, all of the components, the Kickstarter-style website, the 8 to 10 packages, the opt-in sequences, everything that's involved in that process. And then we're going to coach you and give you advice and support and mastermind support until you generate your first $1 million in sales. And we're going to make sure that it's a powerful, amazing experience for you. So questions, comments, thoughts? We got about we got 14 minutes left, and we want to finish on time on that. So anyone have any questions, comments, or thoughts, you can put them in the question box. You can type them in the chat box. Or you can also raise your hand, and we can actually promote you to panelist, it's called, and you can ask us live. That's always fun, too.
Oh, yeah, that is fun.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
This is all for you. We want to keep these last few minutes just for you.
Right. So I answered Brian's question a little bit. Brian was talking about his challenge. He works with CEOs, and his challenge is, he says CEOs are reluctant to admit they need help, and then he doesn't have sort of that Jack Welch, Steve Covey kind of a thing. And what I answered, but I teed this up for you, Tom, because you've got an awesome answer to number one. I said CEOs buy help all the time, but they have to know exactly what it is they're getting out of it. It has to be something they desperately want. But you give your specific example on CEOs who pay Paul 40 grand to keep them on track.
Yeah, this was a guy I wrote my last book with, Earn Twice as Much with Half the Stress, Paul Lemberg. He gets paid 40 grand for 2 1-hour sessions a month for 6 months with a C-level executive in a tech firm. So think about that. That's basically 12 hours of coaching. He gets 40 grand. And he does a little launch call in the beginning and a launch wrap-up call at the end. But what they're buying is those 12 calls. And what he asks on those calls, we've been working together for a while. He charges 40 grand and he has a wait list of clients. And I finally asked him, I said, Paul, how do you get 40 grand for 2 hours a month? Like, what are you doing? He said, do you really want to know? I said, yeah. I said, I asked him, what's your number one priority? And they answer. And then he says, why aren't you doing it? And that's it. In fact, on the second call in the month, if they've committed to do something and they haven't done it, he has approval in advance to hang up on them. He won't even do the call if they haven't completed what they promised in the last 2 weeks, which for you accountability coaches out there, and a good note for Francine and Frank on our side, that's a brilliant piece.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you promise to do X and it's a week or two later and you haven't done it, hey, call's over. Call me when you're done. Boom, click.
And CEOs love that stuff.
Oh,
because they expect the same thing out of their people.
right. And that's the other thing, is that they are in the accountability business. That's the CEO.
Right.
So Brian, the more you can do that, you are a Jack Welch.
Right.
Period. Full stop. And the key with C-level executives is there's only one thing that matters to them, and it's profit.
Yeah.
Everything else stems from that, but the only thing that matters to them is profit. They may be interested in impact, legacy. They may be interested in retention. They may be interested in building a team and scaling. They may, but what motivates them is profit.
Yeah. If profit or shareholder value, they get fired. Essentially, that's it.
And shareholder value is a reflection of expected future profit.
By the way, just a point of so our accountability coach that is part of the programs that we run, Robin is in the chat room, and she just mentioned that she's going to do this. She does the same thing. So just be aware that our accountability coaches do the exact same thing in our programs.
Yeah.
You got to make that commitment to stick to it.
Yeah, so don't apply if you're not going to do what you say you're going to do.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
We will screen that out. We'll screen that out. All right, so the last few minutes, I'd like to open up with any questions you have about the $1 Million Book launch specifically. Do you think it makes sense? Is it of interest? Is it ridiculous? Is it a waste of time? I'd love to get your feedback on this, on what you think of the concept that you saw of us providing you and working with you, creating this $1 Million Book launch. You can type it in. You can raise your hand, and we can promote your panelists. You can throw it in the questions, whatever you want. We've got another.
Yeah, especially Luke. Luke said he's on the fence, so I'd like to know why. Pourquoi, Luke? Why are you on the fence? Thanks, Luke. Says it's brilliant stuff.
You can type in your thoughts. Here's why.
Okay,
good.
Luke's typing in why.
Excellent.
What else? What else for those of you who are still here with us? Obviously, there's a reason you're still here, right? This is compelling. There's something about this that's keeping you hooked. And so I want you to think about this, right? Think about the things that are keeping you from taking a step forward in your authority in your business. What is it exactly? What is it exactly that is keeping you from stepping forward, right? And stepping into your authority? Is it you? Is it a process? Because we've put the process in front of you. This is the process. And now the question is execution, right? Can you execute? Can you do it? And you got two choices, right? You execute on your own, or you execute with some help. Those are your two choices. So right now we got to think, you need to do some thinking about whether or not this is something you're going to tackle on your own, or there's something that you would like some help with. And if you like some help, raise your hand, and apply, and let's chat, and let's see if we can help you. We can't help everybody. There are going to be some businesses, some people, some authorities where it's just not going to be a good fit. We're going to tell you that, and at the end of the hour, we'll have just made a great friend. But make sure that you do not walk away. If you've got that feeling in your stomach right now where it's like, oh, this could be it. This could be that thing. Don't walk away without being able to act on that if it's right for you.
And I want to see if there's any hands raised. No, I don't think there is. So you can do a raise hand feature inside if you want to talk about that, and I literally ask us a question. We're happy to talk to you about it. We can also obviously chat later, but we think one of the best ways to leverage your authority is with a book. No question about it. Both Frank and I have literally generated millions of dollars of revenue leveraged from our books. The books don't make the money. We leverage them. Right, Frank?
Yep.
We leverage them. That's the key. We leverage them through that. So let's just see here. Katie has got her hand up. I'm going to promote Katie. See if this works, Katie. I'm going to promote you to panelist. You're going to have to unmute yourself when you get promoted through. And then you can ask live once you get accepted through the system here. It'll promote you in. I think you have to accept the promotion now that I think about it. So look for that beside the chat screen. There should be a place to accept it. And you will get in. I think promote to panelist. Let's try that one time. We'll be rejoining webinar as panelist. Okay, hang on a sec. Here we go. And so, Katie, you can turn your camera on or not if you want, but unmute your microphone and talk to us.
And the way to unmute, by the way, is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen.
I'm going to unmute for you, Katie, in case you can't find it. Doesn't look like your mic is connected. It's not unmuting.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work.
There we go. Hey there, Katie.
That worked.
Yay!
I was just about to move over to my laptop. So if nothing else, I'm interested.
Awesome.
My situation is, and I just posted also, I love your whole vibe and your understanding of what's in play. And, you know, it's not easy. I have a lot of the presenting skills. I coach public speaking, and I just finished my book, which I'm very proud of. So I know a number of these. I have the skill sets in place, but don't have your particular method. Would there be a way to adapt? I look like I'm a shrimp. My chair's
we got your eyes. We got your eyes.
Yeah, okay. Would there be a way to adapt to this kind of situation?
Oh, absolutely. The area that you're in is profoundly impacting. I worked for Dale Carnegie for a number of years. Years ago, it was my first real serious corporate job. And the ability to speak effectively in front of a room is career changing.
It is.
It's life changing. It's the only place I've ever made 6 figures in 2 hours is from the front of a room.
Yeah.
And it's the only place I know anyone else has ever made $1 million from the stage is in front of a room. So it's a very impactful area. And the very, very first slide talked about the competition in categories. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people who teach people how to do this now. I cannot believe it. I must personally know 70 people.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's amazing how many people are in this space.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to make real money in this space, and you're not Dale Carnegie or Tony Robbins or Lisa Sasevich now, you need to have a way to stick out from the crowd.
Right.
And Frank's strategy of high ticket, high margin programs, you don't have to reach 30,000 people to make a fortune.
No.
Right, Frank?
Not at all. No. In fact, you know, our clients hit $1 million with as few as 100 clients, right? So in some cases, even less than that. So it all comes down to finding that leverage point where you're creating the big outcome for people. And in your space, there's a rich field of niche opportunities and outcomes that you could focus on. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It won't be, yeah, I'm going to jump in on that one, Katie. It won't be, I'm teaching people to speak.
Right.
It's going to be a niche audience or two to take that and leverage that into massive results. And which is about teaching them to speak, but it's wrapped around a targeted niche and a very specific set of outcomes. Right? It's the exact same skill you would teach average person how to be confident in front of a room. Right? My son's 10 years old. Right? He does not yet have fear in front of a room, and I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And
run with that.
We beat it out of kids, right? At some point, we teach them to be scared, and I hope, and I know I'm working hard to make sure he never ever gets that.
Good.
But, you know, I'm also ready for if it does happen. But the same things you would teach a 10-year-old are the same things you would teach a 45-year-old executive to crush it and make the next level in their career.
Right.
The difference is by linking it to a very specific outcome, you will get compensated way more than you ever would teaching everyone to do what you do.
Being a generalist.
Yeah, so much. And you know, this almost like a micro niche, not even a niche, but a micro niche. You know, I teach left-handed financial planners how to make $1 million a year from the front of a room. I'm exaggerating, but that sort of idea, like really narrow it down. And that would be a big part of this because you got to differentiate yourself in the marketplace and you got to get outcomes. The good news is there's nothing like it for leveraging the outcomes. You know it because you're in the space.
Yeah.
Right? There is nothing like it. I remember the first time I spoke with an offer ever. The first time it was T. Harv Ekker's Guerrilla Business School. I was doing this with the guy that we wrote Earn Twice as Much with Half the Stress, Paul Lemberg. Neither one of us had ever made an offer from the stage before. I'd spoke a lot, but I'd never made an offer.
Uh-huh.
And in 2 hours, we did $200,000 in sales.
I love it.
Half of which we put in our pocket, half of which went to Harv. That's when I also understood the power of a venue and a format. Where I was like, wow, he made $100,000 off our 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to fulfill. But of course, he had to fill the room.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. Like I understood it, but it was a real eye opener to the power of the space that you're in. So if you're good at what you do, and my intuition says you would be, if you're good at what you do, you definitely want to check this out because it's a very lucrative field, and there are a lot of people in this field that are only in it for money.
Really, in this field?
Yep.
Oh
yeah. We've turned down people like that, Frank and I. There are, I call it dolphins, sharks, and carp. The Strategy of a Dolphin is the book this is based on, and there's a lot of sharks in that teach you how to speak in front of a room.
Really?
There's a lot of money to be made teaching people how to speak in front of a room. But
interesting.
for the most part, those people are all about the money for them.
Yeah.
Not the money for their client, but the money for them.
And you can tell in the program design because basically they get the money up front, that you get dropped into a program, and whether you're successful or not, there is literally no aligned incentives. Like they got their money. So if you're successful, not successful, and those folks at the end will shrug their shoulders and go, oh, well, you didn't do the work, I guess. That's the difference between a ticket scalable program that is results and outcome focused. Because I tell my clients, in fact, I was just having this conversation yesterday with one of my clients because she said, well, if I do this, I'm not sure I can guarantee them the outcome. And I said, then you shouldn't do it. Like either you look them straight in the eyes and you say, I am going to get you there, or you say, this isn't going to be the program I do. And I said, you need to do some soul searching and figure out which of those two camps you fall into, right?
It's top of the hour. We're going to wrap, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hope you take
Such a
time to
pleasure
join us.
talking to
Either way, appreciate your time. Same for everyone else. I put it in the chat box, but just to make sure, in case you missed it, you can save the chat box by going more, save chat. First off, for those of you that are here live. For those watching the webinar rebroadcast, just email Anita at strategicphilanthropyglobalsummit.com. Anita at strategicphilanthropyglobalsummit.com. And in the subject line, put masterclass slides. They're not really slides, I guess, anymore, but that's okay. Put masterclass slides in, and Anita will send you out the slides from today with all the links and everything in it and all the resources we shared. We're so appreciative of those of you that have invested 3 hours. Your most precious commodity in life is your time. So thank you for trusting us with 3 hours. We hope it's been worth your while. Whether you apply or not, we'd love to hear back from you. Just hit reply to the emails you've been getting from us and let us know what you think. Let us know specifically this, though, not just, oh, I had a good time. And that's great, and we feel good for about a nanosecond. More importantly, what's the single most valuable concept you learned? And if you apply it, what difference will it make in your life and your business?
Good.
That's what we'd love to hear from you as a post-event follow-up. And of course, if you think there's potential for us to help you and support you and create $1 million book launch, check it out. Sign up for a strategy session. It's free. It's our gift to you. And it is a gift because Francine will take an hour of her time to see if we can transform your life. Thanks, everyone. Frank, any final thoughts?
Nope. Just leverage your awesomeness. Leverage it. Find it. Leverage it. Be it. Step into it. You owe it to the people that you are going to serve to be your best self. So let them be that motivation for you.
And Anita says goodbye. She dropped off because her tech crashed in Brightstone, Basingstoke. Sorry, Anita. Bye-bye. See you on the replay. Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Katie.